Two, check. Hello. Hello. Hello.
Wow. Okay, Rob. Seriously, wow.
Oh my goodness. Doc. My friend. Good Lord. Doc Hollywood. A highly elite community member. And my personal friend and my personal physician, actually. My personal physician. Doc Hollywood, thank you for the 10 gifted subs. That's fucking fantastic. Oh my goodness. Goodness gracious. May peace be upon you as well, Hassan. The doctor is in. The doctor is indeed in. As we can see. It is a day to celebrate. It's a big day. It's a momentous day. We got him. That's right. The Orange Man. He's going down. And after today, we're just never going to hear from him again. Book him, Dano. He's going to get booked. Down at the station. He's going to the big house, as it says in the title. And we're never going to have to talk about this guy again. What a day. What a momentous day. Having a very Mueller Christmas. That's right, everybody. Exactly. Wonderful. So I don't know, there's going to be plenty of stuff to look at today. Plenty of reactions. Where's our mission accomplished banner? That's right. And as usual, it's like, I don't think, I do think it's very funny. And there's no doubt in my mind that Donald Trump is a criminal and is incredibly corrupt for a number of different reasons. This seems like a weird thing to get him on, You're kind of getting him on a technicality. He's done a lot of rampant criminality throughout his entire life. I mean, there's a number of other things that I think he should be locked up for, but this is the thing that they're going with, I guess. Which is hilarious because it's leading. So he's getting or charged, right? Like, just let me see if I have this right. He's getting charged with all these different crimes. No mugshot, no cuffs, no perp walk. And I owe now a friend of the stream, Johnny, aka Subversive History, $5 now. Even though Johnny was incorrect in saying that nothing would happen. Clearly something did happen. Johnny was incorrect. I bet $5 on mugshot though, and we don't even get that. So who's a bigger crook, Trump or Obama or Clinton or Bush? I mean, it's really tough to call. I think Trump is probably the lowest level criminal out of all of them, just because of the lack of the 8 years. He only had one term, and he's done plenty of criminality throughout his life. He's obviously very corrupt, But I mean, Bush started a war illegally. Like, we looked at the Iraq War, the anniversary the other day. Blatantly, illegally lied, fabricated evidence in order to start a war in which, up to 1 million people were killed in the war and ensuing sectarian violence that it unleashed. 32 million refugees, many of whom are still in camps to this day. Obama, you've got Libya, you've got surging in Afghanistan, you've got Syria. The whole ramping up and escalation of the drone assassination program, with which Trump escalated even more. So I don't want to I'm not letting him off the hook either. Yeah, Clinton, you've got the Iraq sanctions, you've got Haiti. Like, it's between the four, it's a lot of criminality. Like, it's I think Bush would probably be the worst, but it's pretty close between all of them. They all deserve to be in prison for the rest of their lives. Right? Yeah, it is a getting Al Capone for tax evasion kind of thing. Oh wow, we got some big protests. We got some big protests. The Patriots are out in full effect. But anyway, look, despite all that, no, we should not hand it to Trump, no. And many people do, which is unfortunate. Many people that have deluded themselves because they see how corrupt and criminal Bush and Obama and Clinton were. They're like, well, we should hand it to Trump. No, you shouldn't. You should not do that. And we should not and will not do that. But regardless of all that, regardless of all that caveat, how, I think every one of these presidents committed horrific crimes, and every one of these presidents deserves to be locked up. Regardless, though, and even though the fact that, so first of all, it's funny. It is just funny. Okay, it's funny that Trump is being arrested. But it's what is also funny, though, is that of all the criminality that they could have gone after him for, whether you want to look at the January 6th thing as well, or there's plenty of other things that they could meaningfully go after him for. So they go after him, but do it in a way that there's no mugshot, no actual consequences. He's still going to be able to run for president and will probably just boost his platform. So there's no actual material impact to Trump in any way, if it doesn't just completely help him or maybe inconvenience him a little bit. So it is funny that he is being arrested and he's going to do this, but I think even funnier is the fact that of all the things they could have come after him for, they've come after the thing that's going to ensure there will be no lasting consequences whatsoever, which is really I think that's the most liberal way of doing these things, right? We finally got him. We got him after all this time. The walls have been closing in all this time, and we got him. Just like with the impeachment, right? It's he gets a little slap on the wrist. Materially, meaningfully, that doesn't actually change anything about anything. He's still going to carry on exactly as before. He's certainly going to win the Republican nomination. I don't know who in the fucking Republican conservative movement is going to challenge him. And he's going to have a good chance of winning the election against Joe Biden. I don't know if he's going to win, but he's going to have a very good chance. Criminality is the only thing he's fantastic for. Because that's how he gets his rocks off, and he's orange. I just made that up just now. That rhyme there. Remember sheet caking, where one buys and consumes a sheet cake.
And have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
To stick it to Trump. That was great. And thank you for the gifted sub. TRRS fan. This is new. This is exciting. Which one of you is this? Which one of you is anonymously starting this account? That's exciting, though. Happy to see TRRS fan in the chat. Gift and subs. That's huge. That feels like a big step. Maybe one of the toe accounts had a change of heart. Exactly. Yeah. Don't even mention that, Doug. I don't even want to mention that. This is how you know you made it. That would be actually really funny if I was in another browser chatting and gifting subs to myself. Imagine if I was doing that. I'm not, obviously. Obviously, I'm not doing that. But imagine if I was, though. That would be really funny. Yeah, maybe you should check to make sure who you think you know in that little DM group that you have where you talk shit about me. Oh yeah, I know about it. Yeah, I know about it. You don't think I know about that? You really don't think that I know about that? Wow. Not Rob 457 gifts 25 subs. That's you beat the system. It's like an infinite money machine. It's an infinite money machine. You just gift subs to yourself all day. I've beat the system. If I was Rob, I would admit it. There, thank you. Thank you, Old Dutch. Like my setup to pump up viewers and subs. That's right. That's what my whole control room looks like.
We simply use the computer to mark up the size of the account.
Totally not Rob paying myself.
Thank you, Brian, for the 300 friend coin. Thank you. Everyone's celebrating the imminent arrest of Donald J. Trump. That account is actually me because I love the validation. That's not... All the parody accounts are going to come out of the woodwork. Have we covered the U.S. government's freakout of Brazil and China? Not really. We talked a little bit about Lula's upcoming trip to China and how there's speculation that Brazil is going to join the Belt and Road Initiative. I know that will cause a massive freakout in the U.S., but I haven't really seen any reverberations of it yet. We did a communism last night. I got 3 hours of sleep. I did not get very much sleep either last night. I'm actually very tired. I just chugged an iced coffee right before starting, so I got a little bit of energy here. My kid's been really keeping me awake. He's been keeping me awake at night. So I went to bed late and then got woken up a couple times in the night and then got woken up at like 6:30 in the morning. So I don't know how many hours that is. It was not great though. Oh, you were doing Tropico 6 last night? That's cool. I did do another late night gaming stream. I returned to Cyberpunk last night. Some of you may have seen. That was fun. It was a little bit of rough going. I almost feel like I should have been on easy. It was a little rough going, but I'm making my way through that whole intro segment. What time? I guess around 9:30 or 10. Probably about 10. You shut the fuck up. Thank you, Ben. Thank you for supporting me. I think I have Tropico 3. And I tried to get into it, but I would always just lose immediately. There's like a trick to it. Oh, you know what, Dimitri? I bookmarked this. Yeah, I bookmarked this exact clip that you just shared. I bookmarked this clip to take a look at. About Rubio freaking out about the de-dollarization. I mean, it's good that they're admitting it, right? It's good. I mean, listen, if you're anti-imperialist or whatever, and you're the power, the like combined wealth and power of these Western countries, it seems so like insurmountable. But there's something really hope-inspiring about seeing them start to freak out, isn't there? Like they're really starting to panic now. That's what a lot of these, like they've been just scrambling for a couple years now, trying to stop the inevitable from happening. Scrambling to try and like to throw whatever at the wall that see what sticks, with a lot of human rights claims, a lot of sanctions, using all the traditional ways, like using the NGO complex, the think tank complex, in order to try and stop what's coming, manipulating the markets, trying to stop what's coming. And it's clear now that none of that shit is going to work, right? And now the realization is setting in for, I think, some powerful people in the U.S. government, or the establishment, the Western establishment. The realization is starting to set in that like this shit is happening. The de-dollarization, this new multilateralism, the panic is really starting to set in, which is satisfying to see, right? It's very satisfying to see these people start to squirm a little bit. The libs are very happy. But as I was saying, it's like, yeah, you know what? Good for them. Their joy will turn to ashes in their mouths. It's exactly right. It's like as I said, they're doing this whole Trump arrest in the exact way that actually harms him the least. Like it's the illusion of having some kind of justice or consequences with like the smallest possibility of legitimate, actual like material consequences, of which there don't seem to be any whatsoever. But you know what? We can still sit here on the sidelines. We can sit here in the peanut gallery and see the freak out from the libs, see the freak out from conservative media, you know? Watch their little pathetic little rallies, their little Trump rallies that they're doing. The Chuds will be thrilled. Well, they're kind of both. Like, they're both angry and excited, it seems like. They're both angry and excited because I think they correctly realize that this isn't going to actually meaningfully do anything to Trump and actually kind of helps their argument, even though they are still mad that it's happening. It's a great day for the spectacle. That's right. And we're above it, right? We have this ironic distance from it. And we're allowed to just enjoy it while understanding all the context about who's more of a criminal than who, and understanding all the context about what consequences are going to happen. We understand all that. We're sophisticated people. We're politically educated people. We understand all that. We can still enjoy it, though. We can still sit back and get some popcorn or chips or some other kind of snack. Goldfish, maybe. And just enjoy it. They're in mad, crying, laughing emoji mode. That's right. Yeah. That's right. You know, it just occurred to me, like, as a snack. If you had like a bowl of popcorn and sprinkled some goldfish in there, some cheddar goldfish, that'd be pretty good, right? You get a little bit of a cheesy aspect. You get a little different crunch texture. I feel like that would be a very good snack. Not crushed up like the actual, just like the goldfish crackers. Just throw them in there. I think simply not having a mugshot is going to be a huge blow to the significance of the whole thing in terms of how it's remembered. Absolutely. And it's just like, what? If you're going to do this, why not fucking just why do it in this half-assed way? That's the funniest thing about it. That's the funniest thing. The live stream I watched got birthday cake flavor Kit Kats. That sounds nice. The goldfish would overpower the popcorn. I'm just talking about a sprinkling. I would say like a 10-to-1 popcorn to goldfish ratio. And of course, yeah, the Reese's Pieces or Smarties or M&Ms or whatever, throw in there. Anyway, should we get to this shit, I guess? As it's Tuesday, I have a little bit less time, so we might as well just dive right into it, shouldn't we? No mugshot. Yeah, now I'm out $5. I will absolutely be here to talk you through it. Let's see. What do we got? They're making. I know. I saw that they're making Heat too. That's fantastic. I love that. Let's see here. I mean, here's the first thing we have here. Who? What are you, a fucking owl? Sorry, while someone's mentioning Biden's son, you know what's annoying? How anytime I saw Biden get got pulled aside or protested by like an Iraq war veteran that's like, you helped start the Iraq war, my friends died there. And Biden, whenever someone talks about that, what's the first thing he says? My son died too. He went to Iraq. So don't talk to me. My son died. He gets this super emotional but his son didn't die in Iraq though. Yeah, his son did die. That's a terrible tragedy. It's a very sad thing. His son went to Iraq, came back, and later died of totally different reasons. That has nothing to do with that, though. When someone says, like, you supported the Iraq war, my friends and I went there, I saw people die, millions of people died, and he's like, my son died. He went to Iraq. But he didn't. That's not quite accurate, though. He died because of cancer chemicals from burn pits used during a war that I voted for. That's right. Bad things have happened to me too. Well, that's the thing. Yeah, it's like if the cancer was caused by these burning pits and by that, but like that's not like that's worse in many ways. You know, if you helped start a war and your son went there and got cancer by being involved in the war that you started, I mean, that's fucking extremely horrifying. Anyway. Finally saw Heat recently as Goaty AF. Yeah, and he's talking about the robbery scene. I did start watching it the other day as well, but I turned it off before it got to the after the coffee shop scene. I'm looking forward to watching the rest. I did just watch the shootout the other day on YouTube as well. I was talking about it on the stream. Amazing scene. Also, it's like, okay, well, if your son died in Iraq too, then that's also your fault. You screwed up both of our lives. Exactly. You think he was being groomed to be groomed for the presidency? He'd be in the Senate right now. Okay, now I'm getting mixed up. We're talking about the Heat banking scene and Biden. But yeah, I did a whole spiel on the shootout scene, the bank robbery scene. The other day. I think one thing that's interesting about it, I'll just say this quickly before we get to this, which is that, you watch the scene and normally, you're shooting a gun on a movie set and they do the sound editing later to put in the sound effects. But in the bank robbery scene in Heat, they actually mic'd the street, like they mic'd the actual street and captured all the sounds live. That's why you hear this big booming, echoey, like, it sounds different than like any other big shootout scene. It sounds so fantastic. And you see the silence in between the gunfire is like, and you hear people running away and stuff. It's like, it just sounds incredible. That whole scene is just fantastic. Anyway, here's the pro-Trump protest outside Manhattan Criminal Courthouse. There's 20 to 30 Trump supporters, maybe 200 and 250 journalists and onlookers. It is funny the way how thirsty like journalists are to make something happen here. Like I talked about before, when this has come up in the past, you'd have to be so unbelievably brain dead to try and start some shit at this point, given what happened on January 6th. Now the people that were involved in that are still in prison in the moment. At this moment, all these people would have to be unbelievably dumb to try anything, and these reporters are really thirsty for it. But yeah, not really looking too good.
We did so much. Look, blacks for Trump, and they all know. And they come up to me. They say, under Obama, there were no jobs, and under sleepy Joe Biden, there's no jobs. Okay. If you look at what we're doing, and it was tremendous when I was in office. They've never seen so much basketball or hip hop. Under Biden, there's no more hip hop, and there's no more basketball. Believe me. But when I get back in
this
there,
is like a B- impression.
Back. If you look, we're talking to Little Boosie.
Hey, take his wig
This
off.
is
The
weak.
heat. If you look at the rap
He's got
facts,
some
they're
of the
delicious. Look
mannerisms,
at
but
these
it's
cameras.
not.
Look at show the people. The fake news, they won't show that crowd. They won't show that crowd, but it's a tremendous crowd. And it's fantastic. My own daughter Ivanka, she's like, I'm going to stay home today, Dad. I'm like, oh really? But we'll see. We'll see what the will says. Okay.
Who does the best Trump? It's got to be, is it James Austin Johnson? Who came on the Insurgents podcast one time. Or shall I say, Donald Trump. Yeah, Scooby-Doo. Scooby-Doo. It's funny because, fuck, what am I doing? It's so funny because I showed this to my kid. I can't remember why. I think he kind of knows about who Donald Trump is vaguely, and I think I showed him this one time, and he liked it quite a lot. And then the other day, I actually said Scooby Doo, and then I hear from next to me my kid go, "They should call the show Velma." I was laughing so hard. They should call the show Velma.
Scooby-Doo. 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 They call him Scooby-Doo. They call show Scooby-Doo. But Scooby doesn't do anything. Scooby is not involved. Half the time, Scooby's not even involved. He's just a bystander. It's one of the worst deals we've ever had. To call the show Scooby-Doo and then not deliver on Scooby-Doo.
See, that guy, the guy earlier we were
can count
watching
on
at
me.
the...
You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Maxi, thank you so much for the 21 months of Tier 1. Thank you, Maxi. So close to the elite exclusive golden TRRS 24-month sub badge. Thank you, Maxi. Yeah, this one is good because the other guy's way too it's too cartoonish. It's too bombastic. Like, you have to be able to bring it down, you know? That's what he can do. He's got the cadence, he's got the mannerisms, but he can bring it down a little bit. It's not like all the projection and like the silly mugging and stuff. Yeah, he's got the inhales for sure. It was so funny when he came on our podcast. It was one of the funnier segments that we've done.
Not a show about a dog sniffing its ass, okay? This is your show where the mystery team are in a van and they walk around and they do, they figure out, mystery. They're solving mystery. And Scooby is not involved in any way, shape, form. Scooby, frankly, gets much too much attention, money. We're giving way too much attention to Mr. Scooby. And he's not doing anything. Scooby-Doo, he doesn't do. So we call him Scooby, but he doesn't do. We call him Scooby, but he doesn't do. It's a terrible deal. The show, by the way, if we were talking about who actually was doing anything, solving mystery and helping crime, stopping the bad guys who are really not so bad. If you talk to some of these guys, they just want to remake the world into a better place if it wasn't for these meddlesome kids and their stupid work. Okay? But we're doing a show about mystery team. They're solving the mystery. They should call the show Velma. Why don't they call the show Velma? Velma's the one doing everything. Fred and Daphne, they're just over there porking in the corner. They're not doing anything. They're making out being unhelpful, okay? Fred just drives. Fred's just the driver. He doesn't drive the plot, and he doesn't drive the mystery, and he doesn't solve the mystery. He just moves the van from place to place, A to B. And it's a very unhelpful thing. We don't even need the van. The van does not play narrative. It does not have narrative role, okay? Other than...
he really has the thought process. Like the rambling, the disparate connections firing. Like that's a big part of it. That's a big part of it. I've gotten how to find the. Let's see if I can find it here. We have so many podcasts now. I don't even remember when we fucking did this. This one? Hey, Jordan, what's up?
Hey, Rob.
I think this is it. Did you catch that Twitch stream last night?
I would love to pick up that where we left off on that idea, because I think that would just really get out like Gen Z voters.
For sure. Yeah, and I think, maybe not going as far as what happened last night with AOC, kind of working with this kind of subversive, like anti-American type, Hassan Piker. I don't know if you're familiar with him. Definitely not someone who want to be associated with in any way. So.
Yeah, he likes 9/11.
Yeah, he thinks 9/11 was good. That's right. So we don't want anything to do with that. Okay. But I think there must be some way to kind of get at this. Like I pitched a couple weeks ago the idea that he could just say like, there's a Cheeto among us in the White House, just kind of a throwaway line.
Orange is sus. Vote him out.
Yes, I have to do this again. That's great. We got to write this stuff down.
Yeah, I think we're probably the first.
Oh, sorry, I don't. Let me just get this. Okay, okay, this says it's coming from the White House. That's a little alarming, but okay, I'm just gonna. Yeah, active. Hello, it's Insurgents Global HQ.
Rob, Jordan, how are you doing today, everybody? It's wonderful to call in to WTF with Rob and with Jordan, and we're going to be talking about who are you guys and doing all of it. I think it's really great what you're doing with your show.
Okay, this is actually the Insurgents Global headquarters. Is this President Trump calling us?
Donald J. Trump, and I just got home, and I'm kicking back on the couch.
This is all improv. This is all improv.
In the shower and everything, and wash me off. And
yeah, that's right. I was improvising with a real SNL comedian here.
I was checking my email, and I saw that you were going to be doing your show. And I thought I'd love to call in and talk to Robin and Jordan and see how everybody's doing and get out a little bit of the message.
Okay, well, we were not
2020.
We were not expecting to hear from you at all, so this is kind of I'm not really prepared for this.
The call is coming from inside the White House, and you've got me. Big twist, M. Night Shyamalan. Nobody saw it coming. No one saw it coming, just like with 2016. And now we're doing a 2020, and it's going to be the same deal. Hillary has an email, and Comey's there, and everybody was there. You two were there. It's going to be a dream. It's going to be just like a dream. All my teeth fell out, and I was naked in study hall. It's going to be a dream.
It's a little disturbing. Yeah. Is there anything specifically you wanted to speak to us about? It's a huge honor to speak to you. I know we don't agree always politically, right? But
we don't always agree, but you know what? Here's the thing. We're going to need to be coming together, okay? We're going to be needing to unite, all right, behind whoever the election person is, whoever does it when it's me. So we're going to need to come together when it is me and when it will be. And we're going to have to work together. The radical left and the floofy liberals who wear the boat shoes and Colin Jost and all of it. And then even the Republicans, you got the nice Republicans who have soft hands and they smell really good. Never done a day's work ever in their lives. And all the way down to the MAGA types with the Oakleys sitting in the truck. And, I hate Mexicans and all that. I just think it's great.
Yeah.
And we need to come together. I've been saying it for a long time. You know what I mean? Everybody. Pretty much everybody's and we're coming together in incredible numbers. We're all voting for Mr. Trump. We're going to do it again, and I just think it's great. I heard that Ken is not doing the show anymore.
Oh, no, yeah, Ken is banned from the show. That's right.
Yeah, you banned Ken a while ago.
They're doing a cancel culture, and I just think it's awful. Don't you think it's awful how everybody gets banned and they can't do the cancel? And everybody's just getting canceled. Andy Warhol said in the future everybody gets 20 minutes of soup. And now they're doing 20 minutes of cancel. And I just think
President Trump, with all due respect, though, Ken Klippenstein does know what he did. So that's
Mr. Klippenstein was very mean very rude. not
You've just
very
become an
nice
elite member
to
of
Jason,
the Friendship
okay,
Triangle.
to Mr. Chaz.
That's right.
And Cher, Chaz and Cher have been doing.
Ben. Thank you. Thank you for the 5 gifted subs. I really appreciate that. Thank you for supporting my misguided improv efforts. I appreciate that. Thank you. Oh, come on, folks. You know, I'm not a trained improv guy. I'm riffing here with the SNL guy here, right? You're totally misguided and I love you. Well, thank you. Oh God, we got Kid Rock. I'm just going to finish playing this because I like to revisit it every 6 months or so. And then I will look at this Kid Rock
Great
video.
work.
Thanks again,
They've been
Ben. I
doing
really
great
appreciate
work
it.
for a long time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very in with LGBT and Q, and we've even got some of the kids, the skateboarders, the kids and the vaping, and they got pink hair. And they say, I'm they, them. We're doing those too, so we've got them as well. I think that's what the T is in the LGB.
I think you're right. Yeah.
We're doing the KGB. We're kind of getting everybody together. I think it's going to be really incredible.
So, President Trump, I'm a little unclear. Do you support the ban on Ken Klippenstein, or are you against this? Because I'm a little unclear on how you're falling on this one.
Well, Ken was not very nice, as I said, to some of those people. He's not.
I'm trying to get him back on track.
And it's a
he
big
hates teachers
for Beto, because with Mr. Beto, he was doing a skateboard and he was playing punk. Okay, and last I checked, there weren't a whole lot of pop punkers who were doing the Tea Party, who were doing Revolutionary War. They weren't a whole not. Newfound Glory wasn't in the Minutemen or the Sons of Liberty or anything. So
no, not to my knowledge.
We had an incredible conversation, by the way, with Solid Snake about the Sons of Liberty, and so we're looking to bring in some of that 70s, 76 energy here in the last days of the campaign. I think we're getting very far with it, but you know what? Ken was not very nice to a lot of people, and Beto just wants to live his life, okay? He wants to skateboard on the quad. He wants to go to the keg party and do keg stand, and he likes to say the F word. That part I actually kind of like. I like a guy who says it like it is. And he's very suppressive, don't you think? I think it's very suppressive what he's doing to Mr. Beto O'Rourke.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it was disrespectful to Beto,
Very disrespectful.
to Chasten, all of it. He doesn't care about teachers. It's just he's disgusting.
He's often complaining
Nasty.
about teachers, how he doesn't like them around the office.
Yeah.
It makes us very uncomfortable.
See,
Nasty guy.
I hate that people are complaining about teachers, because teachers really do probably the best of all of them. Teachers teach math. They're doing language and Spanish, and I just think it's grande what they're doing with teachers. We have some of best teacher that has ever done pretty much anything, especially English with language, and I'm doing incredible with language and words and doing English. Probably better than Einstein, better than any of them, really. We're looking at Stephen King. We had an incredible conversation with Stephen King recently. Get more Stephen King in the schools. And when people like Mr.
I agree with that,
Klippenstein, I'm glad that you do. When people like Mr. Klin are getting on here, and by the way, 2Ks, that's 1K away from 3Ks, and we all
That's
know
troublesome,
what 3K is
yeah.
doing. And we didn't like Y2K either, so 2Ks isn't doing great either. So we're talking to
That's a good
NBA
point.
2K, we're talking to MLB 2K, we're really talking to everybody. We're talking to FIFA.
Are you a gamer, Mr. President? You do game? Is that what you're saying?
FIFA does not like the police, and FIFA and BLM are teaming up to disrupt
We're talking
the
to
election.
FIFA.
Okay? And Joe Biden is working very closely with FIFA so that he's trying to make sure that they never update the soccer game. They just do a Xerox and they release it and they say, "Oh, it's a new game. Pay $60."
You just add some new players and you have the same engine,
game,
right?
and you could have just said it was a DLC. Why did they do it as a DLC for 2020? And instead they say, no, it's all, you got to buy the same game over and over.
That's very frustrating.
It's very frustrating. The American people who love soccer so much, it's their favorite sport. We need to be able to give it to them at a cheaper rate. Wouldn't it be great if we? I mean, how much can people spend on FIFA? And George Soros is funding FIFA, by the way. He wants them to be doing soccer all over the country, and we're not ready for it. We're not happy about it.
Yeah. Well, President Trump, we really appreciate you taking the time to give us a call. Obviously, we are, you listener of this show, you know that we're working with the Biden campaign. We're kind of on two opposing sides here, but we really do appreciate it, and we wish you the best of luck
listen,
on the election, sir.
I know nobody listens to your stupid little show, and I know I know that your little thing, your froofy little neo-lib, gated community stuff, nobody likes it. Nobody listens to it, so I feel comfortable telling you in this vacuum that I really hope Joe wins, because I'm tired, I'm hungry, and wouldn't it be great if I was just a regular greatest generation guy and I sit back with the iPad and the text is real big? You know what I'm doing? And I'm doing the solitaire, and we watch Martin, and we're watching Moesha, and it's just whatever's on. House Hunters, and I've got the iPad, and wow, and I'll tell you guys, because I know nobody listens to it. Nobody listens to it. What the hell is it even called? Nobody even knows.
No. Many of our listeners don't seem to know.
The podcast, and it takes you, it's a big blank. You remember the blank page when you get on the internet, and it says 404, and then it's a dinosaur, and he says, "I'm sorry, oops." So nobody listens to the show.
President Trump, I mean, that kind of left it on a sour note, but again, we appreciate you reaching out to us. Thank you very much for your call, sir.
It's been an honor, sir.
You're going to chop it and screw it, and you're going to do a Lil Jon to it. You add in all the yeahs, and you're going to make it crunk and everything, and you're going to edit it. I know that you're going to distort all my words and make me sad. You remember on Dateline when the guy who doesn't want to be on Dateline, and they make him look like a shadow?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm familiar with that.
I know. So you can they do incredible stuff with cyber. Barron made a movie where he was skateboarding and he jumped the Eiffel Tower. And I said, it's really crazy what you can do with your little iPhone when you do on your iMovie.
He's a very talented young man, definitely.
Very, very talented young man. I think somebody has earned a switch.
That was good. That was good. They do incredible stuff with cyber. He's very good. It's Kid Rock time. So does this have to do with Bud Light or with Trump? Oh, and by the way, the fucking... This is annoying me more than it should. This is so stupid. Like, what is this? When was this ever funny? When was Doge ever funny? Maybe briefly in like 2008? Is that it? Like, what are we doing here? What is this? In 2014. Okay, great. He's a 15-year-old in 2013. Yeah, that holds up Spork. That's right. Why is it still here? We don't know. I think it was only supposed to be there on April Fools. Excuse me. I think it was supposed to be up for April Fools, and they just didn't do it because probably no one knows how anything works there. And now it's just, what is it, April 4th, and there it is. Yeah, or he's pumping and dumping crypto, or altering the... I think it's three things. It's him being a dumbass who's not funny, who likes memes that are over a decade old. It's another pump and dump crypto scam. And it's also changing the Google search results for his massive lawsuit over his Dogecoin pyramid scam that he was involved with. So it's three things. I don't think it's any one of those things. And can you imagine one of these people running this kind of pyramid scheme and defrauding people like that? That just makes me sick. That just makes me absolutely sick. And anyone that would ever engage in that kind of fraudulent, predatory behavior. I think is just a sick person who is not worthy of respect.
Grandpa's feeling a little frisky today. Let me say something to all you and be as clear and concise as possible.
Uh-oh. What's this?
Fuck Bud Light and fuck Anheuser-Busch. Have a terrific day.
Oh, shit. Oh, shit. Ain't nobody gonna tell me how to live. It looked like someone was like shooting like a Roman candle at it at the same time. Was I crazy? What was that? See, there's like sparks going off. You see, there's something coming from off screen on the side there and hitting it because it wanted to make like an explosion. Shit, I fucking accidentally. See what I mean? What is that? They're like launching some like Roman candle at it. And you can see it heading in the water in the back, the sparks in the water. Like, see, do you see what I'm talking about? What is that? This is what a human being that needs therapy badly looks like. Yeah, what is it? Because Bud Light has like a pro LGBT label or something, or a new ad campaign? Like, products just can't advertise to people that are LGBTQ. They just can't. It's not allowed. They put rainbows on the can. There we go. Good. That's so upsetting. Yeah, and he just bought some. That's why don't conservative reactionaries ever understand that a company doesn't need you to drink, eat, or use their product. Just buy it. You just bought a bunch of these beers, sir. You know, it's pretty silly, but it's such a weird thing to get angry about. You know, the idea that a massive brand is going to just like create an ad campaign that's pitched more to like people that are part of the LGBTQ community. Like, what does that change about you? What does that change about your life? You can still sit down and enjoy a Bud Light, and it doesn't mean that you're like
you're gonna have good old
doing
Rob
anything you don't want to do. It doesn't mean that the can is now a dick or something. You know, like, it seems obvious, but apparently these people need to point this out. It just makes them so uncomfortable. I do think there's something going on with some of these conservative guys and their obsession with cigars as well. Specifically cigars as like a masculinity thing. It's like I saw someone describe it online as like a masculinity cheat code. All of these guys, Matt Walsh, there's that picture of him outside in his backyard puffing on his cigar doing his work. They think there's something weird going on with that. I'm sorry. Oh, thank you, Diego, for the 2 gifted subs. Thank you. You know what I mean, though? It's like you can still enjoy a Bud Light. I'm not part of the LGBTQ community, and I can still enjoy a nice Bud Light Lime. It's one of my favorite products. I enjoy a nice, refreshing, ice-cold Bud Light Lime sometimes. And they can market their product to other like communities or other demographics, and that just doesn't affect me. And that doesn't affect me in any way. The cigar thing always looks like cosplay. No, it is. Like, and I fucking know these guys when the cameras are on are like smooth. I know they are. Their obsession with like cigars and whiskey and stuff. I'm sorry, they don't like that. You don't actually like that shit. I know some people do genuinely like it. I'm not discounting that, but like, no, I'm sorry, you don't like that. Okay, like I see your point, but what if you imagined it did affect you in some way and you were angry? Yeah. We've got another competitor in the RR arena. Kid Rock's name is Robert Ritchie. Bob Ritchie. That's funny. Robert Ritchie from suburban Detroit has become this like middle America, everyman, gun shooting. Ugh. We're on to you, Bob. Bob Ritchie. You fucking phony. Bud Light's for yuppies anyway. Well, I enjoy. What are you saying about me? I enjoy a nice Bud Light product sometimes, although I don't drink I drink Bud Light Lime or sometimes some of the other flavored ones. If I'm just having like a light beer, I would prefer Coors Light or CL Smooth, as it's sometimes called, to Bud Light. You like Bud Light Lime, which is actually even fancier. Is it fancy though? Old Dutch has got a pulled pork, melted mozzarella, sweet pickle, mayo, gochujang. Old Dutch, all dressed chips, and it's not just a clever name, and a Coke Zero. That sounds wonderful. That sounds wonderful, Old Dutch. All the rich guys partying at the lake, throwing back the BLLs. I guess that's funny about Kid Rock, though, or Bob here, is that he is one of those guys. He is a rich guy at the lake, but he's pretending that he's not one of those guys. No one calls Coors like that. Oh, boy. Dr. Awesome is saying no to the sweet pickles. I enjoy a nice sweet pickle. And what can I say? Okay, let's get to some of this news, this Trump news coverage. Finally, it's been a fucking hour, and I have not even really done it. Here's NBC News.
That to happen during the arraignment.
Here you go.
Legally, a lot uncertain here. This is going to be a long road. We know that there will undoubtedly be some appeals because the president already striking a defiant note, and so are his attorneys, making it very clear that they intend.
Let's see what's going on. Look, there's no one there. That's what's so funny. They're prepped for a big fucking fiasco. There's just no one there. I would like for one of these Trump guys to go Ronin style over this. Even though no one showed up, I would love to just have a lone hero stand up and try and do something. That would be fun. They're at the MTG rally. Okay, so she's having a rally and then they're going over there. Is that it?
So there are already discussions within GOP circles about how to sharpen their tone, and you will particularly see that.
I just want Trump to reach for a cop's gun. I mean, do you want to get out of there or don't you? That's the question.
In a number of other places, but right now we are just waiting for the former president to arrive. We're waiting for history to unfold here.
Kristen, Rahima Ellis was talking about a normal.
We are going to see history unfold live together, folks. This is going to be another historic day on this program.
But given what NBC News is being told from Trump's legal team about them potentially receiving the indictments in the courtroom and then asking for a recess to review them, this could perhaps take longer than we expect, or a quote-unquote traditional arraignment would take place. Can you walk us through, as far as we know right now at least, what we expect to happen once former President Donald Trump walks through those courtroom doors?
Well, I think you're absolutely right. First, he has to be processed. So there is that piece of this. And again, we expect that he will be fingerprinted. But if they do unseal the indictment, if his legal team asks for extra time to read it again, we're talking about more than 30 charges. So that could take quite some time.
All right, we are releasing NBC News Chief White House correspondent Kristen Welker right now, who has to tackle one of her many responsibilities. Kristen, thank you as always for your reporting. Let's bring in former Brooklyn, New York prosecutor Charles Coleman, who is also an NBC News and MSNBC legal analyst. Charles, good to have you with us. So obviously we don't know the exact charges yet. We are heading now. Stand by for an NBC News special report with Lester Holt.
This is an NBC News special report. Here's Lester Holt.
Good day, everyone. We're coming on the air with breaking news, the beginning of a consequential day in American history. The first former president to face criminal charges in a court of law. The events of today are both historic and certainly controversial, with legal and political ramifications that will reverberate throughout the 2024 election and beyond. Just a few moments ago, we saw former President Trump leaving his home in Trump Tower, where he's been since his arrival in New York yesterday. And at any moment, we'll see the motorcade making its way through the heart of New York City to a courthouse in Lower Manhattan. It's a trip of about 4 miles. There will be multiple vehicles led by his Secret Service detail. By any measure, this is also something of a spectacle.
No shit, sir.
Be watching protesters, even press from across the
No
globe,
shit, sir.
the streets.
That's all it is. That's literally all it is. That's all we have. That's all we can ever have. All we get is spectacle. Yes, it is. Thank you. Thank you for spelling it out.
District Attorney's Office, who will inform him he is under arrest. The 45th president will then be processed, meaning he will be fingerprinted and will have to fill out paperwork just as a normal defendant would. But we're told he will not be handcuffed and he will not take a mugshot. Mr. Trump will then enter the Manhattan Criminal Courthouse to stand before a judge and be arraigned. He has said that he will plead not guilty. If the case goes to trial, it could be months, even years away. So this is the early part of a lengthy process. Right now, the indictment of the
So he's probably going to be president. There's a good chance that he's going to be president again by the time there's any movement on this.
And Mr. Trump, as well as the public, will finally see the charges he is facing. Sources have indicated he's facing about 30 different charges related to document fraud, likely stemming from hush money payments paid to the adult film star Stormy Daniels in 2016 over an alleged affair the two had in 2006.
It's all silly and won't matter. No, it won't.
And legal analysts
Look at
to
this.
help us throughout this critical day.
Beautiful setup. Look at this.
Kristen Welker right now, who is outside the courthouse to set the scene for us. Kristen, good day.
Nobody expects John Hinckley Jr. That would be a great conclusion to his story.
Outside the courthouse, throngs of protesters, those in support of the former president and those who are critical of him, have gathered at a nearby park as they await the arrival of the former president. Once he arrives, he will be processed in this building behind me. He's going to enter on this street, which you can see has been blocked off. This is called Hogan Place. He will go in. As you say, he will be fingerprinted, and then
That's what I'm holding on to. This is all spectacle, but maybe we'll just happen to see something crazy. Maybe a lone hero will step up and make this actually interesting in some way. We can still hold out hope for that.
And a lot of uncertainty legally about the path forward. As you say, it could stretch months.
It does sort of feel like we're watching Succession. Great episode on Sunday, by the way. Just watched most of it last night and watched the rest this morning. So good.
In fact, Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene was here earlier today, as well as controversial Congressman George Santos, to show their support of the former president. But based on some of my conversations with sources, you could see some of the former president's Republican rivals start to sharpen their tone, because there is a concern about what happened in 2016. Effectively, that Mr. Trump's Republican rivals didn't want to go after him until it was too late. So could that change? If there are more indictments, that strategy could change, Lester. But an historic day getting underway here in May.
All right, Kristen Welker, as we watch that motorcade, that convoy making its way to Lower Manhattan, I'm joined by our panel who have each been closely following this case. Hallie Jackson is our NBC senior Washington correspondent. Laura Jarrett is senior legal correspondent. Also with me, NBC News legal analyst Danny Savalos. Laura, let me begin with you. Everyone wants to see that document, that indictment, once it's unsealed. The process, though, may be a little clumsy or slow.
Well, yeah, we don't know exactly when it will come out. Will it come out in the middle of the arraignment? Will it come out and not until that hearing is complete? We have reporting from our colleagues, Jonathan Dienst, that if in fact Trump's defense team hasn't seen it until they walk into that courtroom, they may ask for a brief moment to confer, to be able to evaluate it, because they haven't seen it, just like we haven't seen it, because it's still under seal. So that would be a sort of a delay, a little
just 1 second, folks.
There to watch for. Obviously, we don't
Let me
have
get some lunch
cameras
here
in the courtroom. We have reporters there for us. So it'll be interesting to see whether, in fact, that takes place.
Danny, typically, would you see the affidavit, I'm sorry, not the affidavit, the indictment handed over to the defense and to have them be given time to go over it?
Ordinarily, this is where the defense gets the indictment. Now, do they normally get 15 minutes to go into a special room and look at it? No. Depending on the jurisdiction, they might only have a few seconds to look at it. But because an arraignment is really not a substantive hearing, it's just charges, rights, bail, and housekeeping, scheduling possibly. So inconsequential is the arraignment that in some jurisdictions, Pennsylvania, for example, you can waive it. You can just mail in your not guilty plea, and you don't even have to go. It's significant because it is the starting gun for the criminal case. And after that point, you can get things like discovery. You can get the indictment, of course, which you need to get. But in terms of an actual substantive hearing, normally we're talking 5, maybe 10 minutes. If you're in some jurisdictions, they do it conveyor belt style. Many defendants in the same room on one day. Of course, that's not what is happening here. Reportedly, they've closed down most of the courthouse for a single arraignment. Normally, as I said, just a few minutes long.
Hallie, give me your thoughts as we await the arrival of the former president.
Well, I'm picking up on something Danny talked about here, and Laura too, which is this is a fairly quick legal proceeding. We had been watching, and we're seeing it here, that aerial shot of the motorcade. And let's just set the scene for what we expect to see happen over the next hour. We are not going to see much of Donald Trump. That is the expectation right now, because the judge has ruled that there are no video cameras in court. There will be some still cameras permitted, so we will have some, frankly, historic images of the former president.
But that'll be only
just before the proceedings happen. I wouldn't underestimate, though, the power of a compelling visual, especially for somebody like Donald Trump, who made a lot of his career on understanding the power of an image here. What we're seeing now, let's just be clear. Lester, you or I couldn't get downtown as quickly as Donald Trump is getting downtown. The level of security that is in place around this is, frankly, extraordinary, and it is unprecedented because this situation is unprecedented. A lot of eyes on this. There's a lot of attention on this. As Laura and Danny have laid out, there are going to be things that will happen that don't typically happen for your run-of-the-mill defendant. At the same time, this is somebody who is facing criminal charges, Lester, and that is not to be forgotten.
Let me bring in NBC News political director and moderator of Meet the Press, Chuck Todd. Chuck, everything is through a political lens. Certainly this is. There has been a prebuttal of the DA's case based on no knowledge, really, of what is in this case.
There has been. Look, I think that the Trump team has decided, and they made this decision honestly, he made the decision 5 months ago when he decided to become an announced candidate as early as he did. It was all about trying to game the politics of the legal threats he faced. He was hoping being an announced candidate perhaps might keep the Justice Department from being as aggressive in that investigation. But none of that has worked out. But of course, he views his best legal defense as a robust political stature, if you will. And so today it's pretty clear he is now trying to lean into this. He wants to send the message that not only does this not hurt him, it may strengthen him, at least if you have that view inside the Republican Party, and certainly his Republican opponents are going ahead and conceding that aspect of it. They're not going to sit here and pick at this. If anything, they're rallying around him on this one. Look, we're all in uncharted waters, so we can sit here and none of us can pretend we know exactly how this is going to play out. But it's what could be a short-term gain. Over time, Trump has a way of sort of wearing out his welcome, even with his most ardent supporters, and so.
I'm sure his welcome is going to be worn out any day now.
What voter who voted for him in 2016, didn't vote for him in 2020, is suddenly looking at all of this and thinking, maybe I was wrong. Maybe I will go back to supporting him. This is what I want. So I still don't buy that it ends up being helpful to him politically in the long term. But if it's about keeping control of the GOP, In that sense, this has been successful.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all
knows
this.
this. You look at where the poll numbers are just in the last few weeks that we've seen, and members of the Republican Party, the former president's base, they are rallying around him, and so are his Republican
Thank you, Steve, for the
opponents in this
16
race.
months
We
of
even
Tier
saw
1.
that
Thank
from
you.
one of his potential rivals, Tim Scott, this morning. We've seen it from Nikki Haley. Ron
Anxious Meek, are
DeSantis,
you talking about
Mike
my
Pence.
glasses
They
or
are
someone else's
frankly giving him
glasses?
some cover on this front. But as Chuck points out, I've spoken with one sort of top political
The
operative
effort
here
they
just
made
in
to
the
put in
last
trying to make
18
this
hours or
motorcade
so,
seem
who
interesting.
suggested,
It's a
hey,
very OJ, it's very OJ vibes
having
to this
support
whole
your
thing.
base could be helpful in the primary and will be helpful in the primary, but how does it play in a general? That's a question.
I would
that
love
some
it
of
if they made a
these,
McDonald's
Republicans,
stunt. That'd
I
be
think, are gonna have to
fantastic.
start to consider. Maybe not now, maybe not in a month from now. But
This is
down
the
the road.
Dems'
I'm
move
also
after the
wondering
Ukraine
here,
war
just to get
failed.
back
And
to
as we
some
were
of the
saying,
images that we're
Dude,
seeing, if we
they're
will see the
doing it in the way that causes as minimal damage as possible.
He is somebody who,
Right? He's getting arraigned, but
in many ways, as we know,
won't be an actual trial for probably years. They themselves admitted. No mugshot, no cuffs. Won't materially impact him in any way.
I also want to talk to the panel here a little bit.
So it's like, and will, as they were pointing out, will probably help him win the Republican nomination if that wasn't already in the bag already.
Some areas have voted 1% Republican. This case should be moved to
Yeah,
nearby
yeah,
Staten
Johnny.
Island, he writes. Would be very fair and secure location for the trial. Additionally,
You can
the
count on me. You're going to
highly
have good old
partisan
Rob
judge
to
and his
talk you through
family
all this.
are well-known
There's a
Trump
Cheeto in the
haters. I
big
wanna get your
house.
thoughts about that
B-Rat, thank you very much
language,
for the 18
singling
months Tier
out,
1.
The family, Laura. Could that be
That's right.
problematic, that kind of language? Might that lead to
Is
the
it
judge
orange man,
asking
orange
him to be
jumpsuit?
quiet?
It's a risky move, and I talked to a bunch of former federal prosecutors who have appeared in front of Judge Merchan, who will be presiding over this, and they said,
Although,
he
Johnny,
runs a
you
tight
were
ship.
wrong.
He doesn't stand for
You
any
said nothing
nonsense.
was going to
He's
happen.
fair. He's impartial. He has a
Just to be clear,
well-regarded reputation.
You were incorrect.
And it'll be interesting to see.
This is
whether
clearly
he
something,
issues sort of
but
a
I did
warning.
think that there was going to be a
Not a
mugshot.
formal gag order in the first instance, but perhaps
No, you were
just
wrong.
putting
You
the
were
former
still
president
wrong.
on notice that he's watching and everything that he is saying.
You
can
were
be
still
used
wrong.
against
To be
him.
clear.
Or maybe he
Let the
says
record
nothing at
show.
all. Maybe the judge just decides, you know what, if he wants to speak, let's let him speak, and to not address it at all. The district attorney may also say something. Obviously, given the number of threats against that office, the number of tweets and posts on Truth Social that we've seen, they may decide that they want to ask for a gag order. Or again, they may decide, you know what, let's just let a jury decide.
All right, the convoy has exited the FDR now in Lower Manhattan. They should be arriving momentarily. But Danny, I do want to get your thoughts on that Truth Social post. Did you find it at all disturbing or near a line?
Disturbing, but here's the thing. Yes, the judge can entertain a gag order. He has the power to do it, but it always implicates First Amendment concerns. And not just any ordinary
It was
speech.
like
Almost
the
everything Trump
messiest
says
thing
is
I could have
political
possibly
speech,
chosen to
which
eat
is
today.
especially cherished under our Constitution. So the judge is aware of this. So I'm thinking that this is something that neither side would even want. Trump doesn't want a gag order. He wants to be able to speak. If you're the DA's office, I don't think you want a gag order either. Let Trump go out there, tweet silly things, print them out, put an exhibit tab on them, and use them when you need to. A good example of that is Trump's
Can you
tweet
imagine?
January 6th.
It's unbelievable that he's resisted so far, but can you imagine
Against him as evidence. If the DA's
if he
office
did
really
tweet
wants
right
him
now,
to,
how much that would fucking
to get himself in trouble, they will not
escalate
push
things?
for a gag order. And Lester, if the defendant says something that is threatening,
I hope
to
they
the
do
judge or the
Clinton
DA's
next. They
office,
should do it.
There's a fix for that. It's a crime. Go out, arrest him, charge him with a new crime.
All right, we're looking at the excuse me, the convoy now pulling its way through Lower Manhattan.
They're not gonna do
Some people
shit,
on the
sir.
sidelines there watching, but not throngs necessarily. Keep in mind they have blocked off parts of this area to other vehicular traffic now to give the little buffer zone. This is nowhere near the size of a typical presidential motorcade that we're used to. This is more akin to what we see in Manhattan during the UN General Assembly when they're escorting various heads of state around town. Let's go to Kristen Welker right now, who is stationed in front of the courthouse. Kristen, will the crowd you're near, will anyone actually see this motorcade?
Yeah, so it hasn't passed by. It's actually, you know, Lester, a number of people can see the motorcade. The protesters who are gathered in that park that I mentioned near the courthouse are somewhat offset. So right now, it's a bit somber and silent here.
Eating some
What we
meatballs.
are witnessing right now is an extraordinary moment. The first president.
Okay, actually, I'm going to interrupt you a second and show you.
Oh.
There is a former
Oh my.
president waving to a few people. As
Oh my.
Secret Service and court police. See the back of his head now as he makes his way to the courthouse.
Oh my goodness. That's kind of a perp walk.
President Trump now inside the courthouse where he
It's a little bit.
Now face the process of surrendering and arraignment. And Danny, you were saying this is a normally rather mundane process.
We're talking about a couple minutes. I mean, it happens very quickly. It is significant because it heralds the beginning of the case itself. But Lester, going back to something you mentioned before about Trump's tweet, he also talked about getting the case to Staten Island. Oh, what a huge win that would be for Trump. And it raises a really fascinating issue about whether Trump can indeed get a fair trial
We should mention
in this county.
Staten Island tends to politically lean red.
Well, what's fascinating is that most of these, you're right, and what's fascinating is most of these motions that argue that, hey, I can't get a fair trial in this
That's right, Bruno.
almost all of them fail. There's maybe a handful that succeed. Going back to the Supreme Court Shepard v. Maxwell, that was the basis for the story The Fugitive, the film and the TV show. That's how far back it goes and how rarely this happens. But interestingly enough, this could be the case. Has there ever been a case that will have this much notoriety, the prosecution of a former president? But even if the judge were to grant this motion, then what next? Where do you send it? There's a general but not hard rule that you send the case to an adjoining county. But consider the counties around here in Manhattan that make up New York City. If you send the case to Queens or the Bronx, he's in worse shape than he is in Manhattan. How do I know that? Well, normally, you really don't have any hard science. But with a former president, you have plenty of hard science. You have election data. And all you have to do is go take a look, and you can get a loose idea of how popular Trump is in Manhattan with numbers. Something like 88%. You folks are more qualified to talk about this than I. But something like 88% of people in Manhattan voted for.
This is like that scene in Ghostbusters. They fall go into the building to fight Gozer. When the ground doll opens up and swallows everybody.
Richmond County, commonly known
That'd
as
be quite a
Staten
twist.
Island. There, Trump won. Much better.
This is all a
than
bait and switch.
50,
Hillary's
like
being arrested
57%.
right now.
So if you're the judge and you're entertaining this motion, you're actually thinking about granting it.
That would be
where do
sick,
you send
actually.
it? There's nothing in the statute that tells you where it goes. And I have to tell you, Lester, if granted, this would be the case. This would be win or lose. This case somehow ended up in Staten Island.
Let's see it again.
Trump wins. This case stays in Manhattan or gets moved to Queens. Just the numbers tend to show
Patriots
this is
are in
not a
control.
Trump favorable jurisdiction. In fact, it's probably the
Look at this
strongest
historic
DA's
footage. It's like
office has
Bigfoot
in its
footage.
arsenal against Trump is the jury pool right here in Manhattan.
All right, that's the picture we saw just a few minutes ago. The former president
Wow.
making his way into the courthouse.
Wow.
Jonathan Deans
Oh, we
is
got
our,
the photos
legal,
coming in.
Justice contributor. Jonathan, give us an idea of what's happening now and when we might see him next.
Historic.
Okay, so we were told that the prosecutors in this case were going to meet him at the entrance where he walked in at 1 Hogan Place and bring him upstairs for this processing. We may get a glimpse of the former president entering the courtroom. There is a pool camera that's been situated. There's a back elevator, and there's about a 5 to 7 step walk from that elevator into that courtroom. There is a camera in that hallway that may pick up the president going into that courtroom. And we may get some still photos early on from a
Oh
pool
boy, can you
still
imagine how
camera
exciting that
is
would be?
allowed in to film the
Can you
very initial
imagine? I don't
photos
even want to
here.
imagine how
And
exciting
that's
that
all
would be.
We're going to see. Then the judge is kicking the cameras out. He is not allowing cell phones. He's not allowing laptops. There is no communication allowed out of that courtroom while the hearing is underway. So we won't find out what happened inside court until it is over and after President Trump has left the building. The security precautions
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
task force, the NYPD intelligence that they've been monitoring over the last couple of weeks since we first reported that security was being ramped up and preparation was underway for the grand
They
jury
do love
to
procedure
act.
porn.
It has been
That was why they hated
hundreds
Trump
and
so much,
hundreds
because
of threats that have
their
been filing in.
cherished institutions
So,
and
the security
little
precautions
rules and
understandable
procedures are just
understandable
violated.
Why the president
That's why,
had
right?
what amounted to from 1:09 p.m. when he left
It
Trump
wasn't
Tower.
about like immigrants. It wasn't about concentration camps. It wasn't about MS-13. It's just so he violated those sacred little procedures and all the little rules, all the little polite rules that they have to follow. He refused to do it. That's why they don't like him. That's all. That's the only reason.
Communicating via Truth Social. Let's go to Kristen Welker. Kristen, what do you know?
Lester, this was
Minion Death called that some good Q cope. I imagine so, yeah.
Truth Social website. Let me read it to you. He says, heading
My
to
norms,
Lower
my
Manhattan, the
delicate
courthouse
norms.
seems so surreal. Wow, they are going to arrest me. Can't believe this is happening in America. MAGA in all caps. This is significant, Lester, because it is consistent with the line of attacks that we have seen from Mr. Trump against this entire process. This is consistent with the line of attacks.
I mean, this
we
is
have seen
exactly
from his
this is
other
exactly what put him in the fucking White House in the first place. The fact that they can't stop talking about him. They love this. This gets all the eyeballs on their precious little news channels again, and like they get the ratings. You know, they can't help themselves. They did it in 2015, 2016. They're doing it again, breathlessly reporting on all this stuff. Tweeting from the seat of the car, going to court. We've all been there. We've all been there. The soul of the nation's been healed. That's right. He should have spelled it America. You know? No, for sure. They're so horned up about this. They just love this. They just love this, and they can't help themselves but do the exact same thing. And elevating him because it's that's capitalism, right? That's all. They got to do it. They can't help it. It's good for the ratings. It's good for selling ads. It's good for moving. You know, you sell ads to big pharma for all this 65-plus-year-old demographic that's plugged into this. Sell all the various medications to alleviate all the different aches and pains and various health issues they all got going on. They can't help themselves. Look at this 3 times. It's the exact same thing. Like, remember the whole thing with the empty podium in 2015? They can't help themselves.
I think that is channeling a lot of what he and his advisors think. Now, listen, they are looking to make some.
Of course, he gets to go home after this.
Political lemonade out of this legal lemon, if you will, by turning this around and going on offense. Some of that, the question has been raised: is it bravado to a degree? The way that there is this sense where his attorney's going out on cable news, on television quite a bit, talking about how they feel confident they're going to win this case, talking about how they feel confident that the judge will rule in their favor. You also have some Republicans. Now, listen, John Kasich is no friend of Donald Trump, right? He has long been.
What do you mean? Republicans are coming together on this and they agree that there shouldn't be any consequences? Oh, interesting.
Voices in the Republican Party who's suggesting that this is going to be politically problematic, not just for Donald Trump, but for the entire Republican Party a year and a half from now.
All right, let me go to NBC News correspondent Ron Allen right now. He's also downtown, where Trump supporters and protesters have gathered. What does that look like, Ron?
Imagine if they did bring him to Rikers with the suit and like not only the cuffs but the ankle chains as well. Or he's in the whole Donald. They put him in the Hannibal Lecter thing on the little like stand, wheeling him around with the mask on and everything.
The crowd started growing and getting louder and louder. And over here, you can perhaps see there's a barricade that separates. One side is against Trump.
On the furniture dolly, yeah.
Trump side is on this side of the barricade, and there have been police walking.
Is there another impersonator there?
Through that area, that's about 6
Oh,
or
it's just a
7
kind of
feet
mask.
apart, throughout the day. It's been peaceful. A lot of yelling and screaming.
Yeah, Silence of the Lambs style. That's right.
Physical confrontations. We've not seen any arrests that have happened as of yet. Again, the Trump crowd has been on this side. It seems to be thinning out a little bit. They seem to sort of disperse after hearing the helicopter and seeing reports on social media and elsewhere that, in fact, Trump had arrived at the courthouse.
I thought they were going to execute him. Well, they did something even better. They executed justice.
Marjorie Taylor Greene, the congressperson from Georgia showed up. The park where she was going to
God,
have a
my
press
hair is
conference
so
where all these
long. I have to get it
demonstrators
cut. Look at
was
this.
so
This is
crowded that
outrageous.
she couldn't get in, and she made some remarks on a side street just outside of this park.
Do it,
That was the
Jeb.
safest place
Be a
for her to
hero.
go, where she could get some space, frankly. Again, it's been very peaceful, very passionate on both sides.
That sign said, "Stop hating each other because you disagree." Is that a holdover from the rally to restore sanity? Must have been.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through
Must
all
have
this.
been.
He's gonna get the chair.
GMO Radio, thanks for the 19 months tier 2. He's going to get the big chair at his special favorite booth at McDonald's. He's going to be in the big boy chair at McDonald's, having the time of his life right after this.
We see the police officers on the street right now. With us, joining us now, former U.S. Attorney at NBC News, legal analyst Chuck Rosenberg. Chuck, we're probably
Thank you, Diego. You shouldn't enable me. You shouldn't enable me in these grooming habits. He's going to get the CBC milking table. Oh no. What a terrible punishment that would be.
Or this individual. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, well, I absolutely...
Gonna go to the
fully
2-floor
believe
Mickey
a fair jury
D's.
in Manhattan,
That's right.
And let me explain that, Lester. You're not necessarily looking for a jury who doesn't know anything or doesn't have any opinions. As an example, I was a United States attorney in the Eastern District of Virginia when we tried...
He should go to the Times Square McDonald's. He should.
Virginia,
I think that would be a great way to celebrate this. We saw how big his McDonald's comments the other day after the East Palestine thing. How much people love that. If he went right from this hearing right down to Times Square to the McDicks, the McDees,
follow the law, and fairly and carefully weigh the evidence deduced in
hold
trial.
court in the McDonald's line. That'd be the best. If I was his advisor right now, that's what I'd be advising him right now. Say directly after this, we're heading right to McDonald's. That's what we should do all his press conferences from now on.
About Trump, can you find a jury of 12 who can fairly and dispassionately weigh the evidence? In my experience, jurors do that all the time. For people who haven't been in the criminal justice system, they ought to know how seriously jurors take their oath and how seriously they take their work. I think the motion is likely to fail if it's filed by Mr. Trump.
I think that's the 5th time they've showed this footage.
That he can get a fair trial and a fair jury in Manhattan. By the way, both sides, not just the defendant, but both
It's like they're
sides
spotting a
are entitled to
cryptid.
fair trial, and I believe Judge Mershon will see that that happens.
All right, Chuck, we'll ask you to stand by. Thank you. And a reminder, Donald Trump just arrived at the courthouse for processing.
Yeah, we know. We
So here's
saw.
a look at what is happening right now. It's pretty standard stuff, as it's been explained. For anyone charged with a crime, he'll be met by a member of district attorney's team who will inform him he's under arrest. That has likely happened already. Mr. Trump will be given the standard Miranda right warnings, which includes his right to remain silent. There's the paperwork that has to be filled out.
Ruining the party atmosphere. This is bullshit.
The big difference for him, no handcuffs, no mugshot.
Yeah, we know, Johnny. We know about the mugshot.
I want to move now.
We know. Yeah.
Christian.
Johnny, this is a very revisionist history, though, because he very specifically said that, quote, nothing was going to happen. So this whole, like, Johnny vindicated thing, I'm sorry, but I don't agree with this.
How lengthy this process is going to be from here on out. How long typically would a case like this take to get to trial?
It could take a year. No one should be surprised.
This is something. This isn't nothing.
A case which has, we haven't seen the indictment, but apparently over 30 counts would take that long. You also have to
The
remember,
thing and nothing was clearly shorthand for mugshot being taken. See, this is totally revisionist.
in Manhattan, it's also not the only case on Judge Mershon's calendar. There are incarcerated defendants who certainly should have their cases tried first, but there should be no surprise that a case like this that's complex would take long. The defense attorneys are going to file motions, as they should, because they're competent, and it's going to be about dismissing the indictment. They may have change of venue.
No, but I've been right along saying that there wouldn't be a. I never said that he was going to go to fucking jail. If you'll recall my commentary on this, I wasn't actually saying, "Oh yeah, they're going to really nail him. He's not going to run for president." I've been very open and honest about that part. The actual lack of consequence. I don't think there's any illusions about that.
We know that there is a special counsel investigation. What happens if any of those indict, and this is still going on, who takes precedent? Which trial?
No, because I still think this is something. They still did indict him. Being indicted is still something happening.
Typically, there are other defendants in that courthouse who have been indicted in other jurisdictions.
Trump arrest just splitting the socialist camp. You hate to see it.
Typically, whichever case is closest to trial will be the one that goes first. So Georgia hasn't even presented their case to a grand jury yet, so there is no indictment. The special counsel,
we simply
there is no
use the
No,
computer to
that
mark
was
up
not the vibe.
size of the
and
account.
Of course, he has
Babbitt's
civil
season in
fraud
Manhattan
case
would be
a block
something.
away from that courthouse, which is going to be going to trial.
Thank you,
probably
Brian, for the
before
300
this
friend
one.
coin.
And then he has the civil rape case that's going to trial. So he has a lot of legal issues swirling in his world. But typically, it's whichever case is the lead. And that's how it happens.
I'm hung up on that year-long process we may be looking at. All that time, presumably, Alvin Bragg's office is not talking about the case.
Only in the courtroom.
There was not much to split. That's right.
Which makes me wonder, are they also know there's a court of public opinion. They also know this has been, widely attacked based on what people know, or maybe in this case don't know. How does that affect how this office proceeds?
If this case drags along unnecessarily, I can tell you it will not be because of the Manhattan DA's office, and I'm not saying that as being biased. The defendant has a right to make motions and after motion, not frivolous motions, but motions. This judge, Judge Merchan, is a no-drama judge. He is very fair and reserved. He will not allow any unnecessary delays. He'll allow.
Yeah, seriously, Johnny. You too, Carter. You too, Carter. When I said the other day on Twitter that,
every time there's a court appearance, the district attorney's office,
every living president should be arrested, people were like, well, Jimmy Carter. And I was like, no, even Jimmy. I'm sorry. I know he's tried to do good things. He's probably been the most successful president in terms of trying to actually live a life of decency after the presidency. Still no. That's still a no from me, dog.
Let's begin this conversation now. But what
You're going to.
This indictment, we have heard that it could be up to 30. We don't know how.
Because of your advanced age, you get first chance at parole, maybe.
That's one of the big questions we all
Most
have.
successful
Once we actually
whitewashing
see
his
the
legacy.
document
Yeah,
is
that's
what
right.
is their theory of the case, and is there anything there that's new? Is there any fresh evidence? We understand they subpoenaed a number of different records. They had a number of different witnesses in front of this grand jury. That's all under seal. It's all supposed to maintain a secret process to protect the integrity of the investigation. And so I'm looking for, in that indictment, is there anything other than a falsification of business records charge? Is there a conspiracy-related charge? Is there banking? Is there tax fraud? We know that his former chief financial officer, Alan Weisselberg, actually pled guilty to tax fraud and falsifying business records, the very issue that we think is at the center of this case. And so we need to see sort of how do they explain their theory of the case and what's their legal hook. We've talked for days about how normally this would be a misdemeanor charge, right? How are they going to elevate it to a felony?
Because of that, he can be buried in his peanut farm. The rest get buried in the sewers.
To commit or conceal a second
We could
crime
work with
in
that.
addition to the falsification. So what's their theory for how you get there?
Would there be a conspiracy, perhaps, charge?
There could be. We don't know. We're going to have to wait and see. But if that's the second crime, maybe that's their hook.
All right, Danny, what are your thoughts? We don't know exactly when we're going to see this.
You're welcome, Grom.
Reportedly, it's
That
going
was
to be
me.
related to the
I made that
hush
happen.
money payments, but I just can't believe that would be the only thing that they would base this historic indictment on is those hush money payments, because they're problematic. This case is going to be problematic. That's not just my opinion. That was the opinion of one volunteer district attorney, Mark Pomerantz, who left the DA's office and this team out of frustration with the way things were going. And in his book, you see not only his position, which is that Trump should be indicted, but other people in the office pushing back.
Trump is just loving this big media circus. Like I was talking about, how they can't stop
this hush
Showing this, Trump loves every minute of this. You know he does.
Died. It was reanimated. It came back to life. It shuffled along. Then it died again. This was a case that was not very promising. There are other cases, other potential charges that we may see. For example,
I'd absolutely love to hear Justin and Zelensky discuss battlefield strategy. That's got to be great. Yeah.
To banks in order to secure loans, or that maybe he deflated the value of his properties when it came time to pay taxes. We may see tax charges. We may see all of these coming, or even related to the Stormy Daniels hush money payments. But I have to say, and I'm probably in the minority, I would be surprised if the only thing in this indictment is 30 plus counts that are related only to Michael Cohen's paying off of Stormy Daniels and Donald Trump's reimbursing of Michael Cohen. There are a number of different challenges that case will have, and I would be surprised if the Manhattan DA's office didn't turn to some other counts, other charges, other theories of responsibility.
The former president's own attorneys have referenced the book that Danny is talking about here by somebody who used to work on
They
this
do
case
absolutely
and on
love
the series of
this.
cases in the Manhattan District Attorney's Office.
He's already He's already announced his run for the presidency, though. He's already
They
announced.
will put up. There's also another way that they're going to try to go after this case, and that is to attack the credibility.
It
of
is really
somebody who has
kicking
been
off.
A central witness who has
I mean,
appeared
that's the
in front
funny
of this
thing
grand
also is
jury
that a lot of
we know
people criticized his
and that is Michael Cohen,
remarks when he was launching his campaign. It's like, oh, he's lost it. He doesn't have the sauce. Low energy. He was looking more. He was feeling himself more in the McDonald's scene. And now in this, he's just going to be in. I'm sure he's going to be in rare form. I know he's going to give a statement after. I think he's planning on talking. So, regardless of anything, it's going to be funny. It will be very funny to watch it play out.
We just had a picture up there. That is the, I think we told you about a camera that was going to be available in the hallway. Jonathan Deans is here. Jonathan, the former president will have to pass through in front of this lens?
So they'll pass through, but the courtroom, I believe, is behind those blacked out windows. So he's going to come out of the elevator bank, make a quick turn, and go into the back
This is
corner
amazing.
courtroom if that is still the 15th floor courtroom that they are using. So as you see, that is the
You might catch a little glimpse. Oh, boy.
Front and center for all news media to share.
You might catch a little
And so it'll be
glimpse.
a very quick shot of the former president going into that courtroom.
If he wants to say anything, he could walk to that
He
stanchion.
can, and we were told they are preparing for that possibility, but we are hearing from the defense side that there is no plan for him to speak.
It is like Groundhog's Day. When Trump emerges, if he sees his shadow, there'll be 4 more weeks of spray tan. How about that?
To prepare for his prime time.
What do you think about that?
15 p.m. speech, announcement, press conference to talk about what has happened.
All right, let me ask you.
Oh, it was very. The whole motorcade was very OJ.
That they are made available
Absolutely.
to not only the council but to the media. You've covered a lot of trials in that.
I know the
courthouse.
press deserves lots of shit for amplifying Trump, but you know, we're all hogs for this. Well, here's the difference, Pathogen. This is what I was saying earlier. We have ironic distance, okay? We're not freaking out like conservatives. We're not taking it seriously like liberals. We're just enjoying the spectacle of it. So that puts us at a level above, okay? We're not responsible for this. We're laughing at them. We're laughing at Trump. We're laughing at the libs. We're laughing at the conservatives losing their minds. We're above it all. We're laughing all the way to the bank.
I would expect in this case a more detailed indictment, but I don't expect something that we often see out of the federal courts.
We're enjoying the spectacle of systemic decay, exactly.
With extensive detail of the alleged crimes. So we are at the mercy regarding the email.
You got to point and laugh at history in the making. That's exactly what I'm saying.
Not going to read the indictment out in open court. There'll be some highlights of the main
We're doing this for
charges.
research
There'll be some
purposes
back
and to
forth on
dialectically decipher the case and the media's role within
probably
it.
in May or June,
Love it.
As the whether there'll be any
Love it.
admonishment from the judge regarding.
I like that as well, the
statements regarding
spectacle
this
of
case,
systemic
all to
decay.
be determined, and Garrett will be in the courtroom. Melissa Russo of WNBC will be in the courtroom. There are 60 seats for reporters in the actual courtroom. 200
I'd argue the
seats in
left is the only
overflow
group that
rooms.
genuinely enjoys this shit. Well, because that's the thing, when you remove the idea that there's going to be consequences or stakes, right? Then you can enjoy it. If you think that there's going to be these big consequences or stakes, you're just going to be disappointed.
You just heard, by the way, all my my legal friends here. Like,
or if you're allowing it to feed into this like persecution complex that that conservatives have, then
it's just not, it's not Pacer, it's not the federal system or some of the other state systems. It is a bit slower, and because the judge has not allowed cameras in and he's not allowing any sort of communication from
we can enjoy
the
it
courtroom itself during the hearing.
Genuinely.
We're going to have to wait till after the hearing is over to hear from the reporters who were there to tell us what happened, and then we're going to have to wait for the DA to email out, and usually they email it as soon as the hearing ends. So that's when I would expect the email to come, because to date, the district attorney's office has been following what he does in other cases, he's doing in this case, which is I'm not unsealing early, even though there's enormous public interest, even though the court was on standby the day the indictment came by, that they were willing to entertain a motion from the DA to unseal right away. The DA said, no, I am going to handle this like any other case, and they wait until the defendant appears in court. Then literally the unsealing, the envelope gets handed to the judge and or the court.
This is riveting.
It's taken out, and now it is public, and that's when
this is absolutely riveting. Yeah, we're gonna have to look at what the late night hosts were saying. Absolutely. Tomorrow we're gonna have to get caught up on what Colbert was saying, Jimmy Kimmel, of course,
and the court or Secret Service or whomever.
Believe me, chat, we're gonna watch every moment of it. Every moment. Don't you worry.
Agents. So is he a flight risk? He's the most recognizable man on the planet. So there's no need for a mugshot at this time. Whether they changed their mind when he came in, and the capability we were told was put in place. Originally, we were told it may not have been in place. It was made to be put in place in case they changed their mind. But in terms of special treatment, much of what we're seeing today,
this is just so. I've got goosebumps at this historic reporting. Wondering whether the stanchion is going to be put in place to block the view of the cameras or not.
The DAs and the surrounding community
speculating on that. There it is again. I think that's the 7th time they've shown that footage.
And to get the president
is Fox going nuts? I don't know. We can check out the Fox feed as well if we want.
So that is the logic certainly behind the court officers, the Secret Service, the NYPD, and everything you've seen in terms of, quote, special treatment. The logic, again, you have to go back. There have been a ton of threats.
Fox just has the live feed. Got the live feed. Do we like this with the banal brain poison commentary over it, or without? The raw shit, the raw intel. Yeah, there's already the picture of Trump with his raised fist outside the courthouse. God, people are going to love that. I think we need the dumb punditry as well. I actually agree with that. I think we need the dumb punditry also. On just like a low volume.
Things that a judge has to rule on is what evidence comes in at trial. And if these events are actually charged in the indictment, if a broader case is charged, then the DA will have more latitude to get more evidence in at trial.
What are your thoughts on state tax charges? Is that the likely one that we would see that we haven't really talked about?
I think it's very likely that...
Imagine being the cop that took fingerprints from Trump. They're going to tell that dumb fucking story the rest of their lives. Yeah, at every cookout. At every cookout, this like alcoholic thumb-looking guy is going to talk about to his kids about the time.
Not like uncharted waters. They like to know the
There's a brush with greatness.
The things that they charge in their indictment. They want to know.
I definitely smell a pork product of some kind.
The way they charge the case. Tax charges, as we saw in the Trump organization.
Yeah, I get it. Bacon, pig, cop, oink, oink, police officer.
Tax evasion. You saw it in the movie The
No, I used to say that kind of thing to cops when I was your age.
So
remember that?
There's good evidence that Donald Trump made instructions.
Mr. Trump, sir, can you do an impression of a snake?
Filing of false tax returns. I think you're going to see those charges in this indictment.
I think we'll see that image a couple times.
A lot of folks quickly, mostly on the right, jumped to the former president's defense based on, a little
what
bit.
was publicly reported.
What was publicly reported, which, regrettably was not.
That's right. That was a Wayne's World reference.
If these charges turn out to be a bit more serious, does that change the calculus here?
I'd be surprised to see that, Lester. I mean, who knows, right? But I think, given what we have seen,
I think they gave away the game. Like, the reality is, there's going to be no trial or anything before the presidential election. If there is, and if he does win, I guess that's going to be a big thing. If he wins, he will be shielded from any consequences, even if there is a trial. He's just going to be like, I declare this trial illegal, and it will be, and it will just get dropped. Because when you're the president, you're not allowed. You're above the law, of course.
that is not the case here.
They said, I mean, Brian, they said earlier, they said it might even be years away, the actual trial.
Remember, and I want to just remind people,
It's going to be at least several months.
This is not the only legal trouble, potentially, that Donald Trump faces. There is another investigation into him in Georgia in Fulton County as it relates to his push to try to overturn the legitimate results of the 2020 election there. There is also a special counsel case as it relates to what he did leading up to and on January 6th, as well as, and this is important, those classified...
He just won. I'm not gonna make any predictions one way or the other about what's going to happen in the actual election, but he's going to have a good chance, though. Especially if Biden is holding the bag, if there's some kind of economic collapse or calamity or recession. If Biden's still the president and there is a recession, and then Trump runs with this shit in the background, I don't know. I don't see any situation where Biden would pull that out.
Protecting intelligence. I think, point being, other cases may be harder for Republicans to defend.
I don't think pardoning... Well, here's the thing, though. I don't think pardoning himself would count, because I think it's something about what level of criminality you're being charged with. Like, the president can't just pardon anybody. But he also, I mean, it's just a norm. He could just go out there and say, no, I'm not, you're not arresting me. I signed a presidential order that says it's null and void. Who's going to stop him? What are they going to say? These norms don't mean anything. This is what Trump exposed. This is what Trump repeatedly exposed. None of these norms mean anything at all. You can just violate these norms, and they actually only exist when there's some kind of institution or infrastructure in place to actually hold people to these norms. But this doesn't exist. He proved this time and time again. So he could just be president, even if they did charge him with a crime that he technically, legally couldn't pardon himself for, and he would just say, I pardon myself. And then who's going to do anything? What are they going to do?
That type of argument could be made against the former president if, in fact, there are more
indictments.
So I think that is a data point to watch. That is a moment.
Look, today should have been a hat day. This has been not a good hair situation for me.
If, in fact, they start to shift their strategy. Another benchmark, Lester, I would look to the debates. That's a real opportunity for some of his rivals to really start to sharpen their tone, carve out their own lanes, and to depart from what we are seeing.
He is a 1 in a million meme president. I thought Boris Johnson would be as unhinged in him as he proved that he's just Trump from Wish.com. Yeah, he was somewhat unhinged, but just nowhere near the same level. And that's why no one in the conservative movement's going to challenge Trump, even if they all would love to. Like, DeSantis tries to do the gestures and he tries to do the mannerisms, but he just sounds like a fucking loser.
Same seat for
no one else can
January 6th, waiting for his
can do what he does,
what was happening
for better or for worse.
Here covering his indictment and his arrest. We will continue to talk about him going forward as we get closer to the 2024 election. How will he continue to shift the American electorate?
I don't know if he's going to continue to shift it. I think it's going to be a continued erosion. I'm glad you sort of focused it and reminded folks about how many times we've been in this moment where Trump's in a legal predicament, and it looks as if, and I think too often people assume, okay, this is it. This is the one that's going to get him, rather than realizing that, and I'll use a metaphor I've used in the past, when you watch the erosion take place on a riverbed. You don't always see it every day.
Very poetic.
Erosion happens. And the fact
Very
of the matter
poetic,
is,
Chuck.
Since Donald Trump showed up in
You
2016,
nerd.
all he has done is lose support over time in the middle. Yes, these moments have rallied the base.
That's what they've always said, the middle.
Has made it impossible for the Republican Party to
The middle, they supported him at every turn. The middle. They supported him at every turn.
Lose connection and lose trust with the middle of the electorate. How do we know this? The 2018 midterms, the 2020 presidential, the 2022 midterms. We can go on and on. There's also smaller elections in between. The fact of the matter is that each one of these, I think, drives more people away. And no one of these legal indictments is the political end of Trump. It's one of these that over time we're going to wake up one day and the emperor will have no more clothes, even among his base. Is that tomorrow? No. Is that a year from now? We'll see.
Shedding a tear at the powerful imagery of the norms being washed away.
Each one of these over time, I mean, watch his Republican rivals. If he gets indicted on either of the other two, investigations in Washington and Atlanta, I don't think you're going to see the same rally around Trump that you're seeing now. In fact, I think in some ways, rallying around Trump now is easy because they
well, and Milko Todex. Boris has to spend all his time hiding his shame rather than being shameless. I think Boris even regretted stepping down, right? I think Boris didn't learn the lessons from Trump. Like, Boris didn't need to step down. He didn't have to. And he realized that too late, I think, regardless of what was going on. You don't actually have to do anything. The norms say that he has to step down, but the norms don't mean anything. That's what Trump proved.
It is certainly not today. TBD on whether it's a time down the road, but this isn't it.
Danny, I want to ask you, I don't know if we can put the picture back up of the former president walking in the courthouse earlier, but as I saw that picture, he turns and he waves, looking at the look on his face. You no doubt have represented clients who may feel pretty, confident in their position.
Oh, yes.
But talk about that moment of reality when you walk in. Now, you didn't get the handcuffs, but he got the indignity.
Yeah, Vince understands this.
And I suspect that's
Vince McMahon understands this better than anybody.
In the courtroom, Trump loves cameras, but he can't control the narrative. And there's probably no worse look for somebody than standing at the defense table, even if you're just being arraigned and saying the words.
He wants to come back. If he saw an opening, he'd do it. I'm sure he's waiting for the conservatives to get
He's going to control the narrative, leave the courthouse,
to lose to Starmer, which actually looks like it might happen.
make his statements. But the interesting thing, there are a lot
And they
of
can come in and pick up the pieces.
there for whom being charged with a crime isn't the devastating thing that it would be for everybody else. And for someone like Trump, he's someone that appears to be unbothered. It's water off a duck's back. So he's walking into court, he's waving, he's probably not going to give a statement here. But look, criminal courts, especially white-collar criminals, are the type that never believe that they did anything wrong. And the irony is they will tell their lawyers about how this is all a big misunderstanding and I didn't do anything wrong. They'll want to control the way the case goes, not realizing the irony that doing things the way they want to do it is what got them a case in the first place.
All right, we're looking at this picture now. This is, Jonathan, 15th floor?
Yeah, 15th floor. So we just saw a moment ago, excuse me, Lester. Sure.
Just hoping the election in the UK comes sooner rather than after Starmer has a chance to fuck it up. And even if Starmer wins, I mean, he's lurched to the right. He's purged everyone on the left. He's tried to destroy the whole Corbyn movement. So it's just going to be like a more capable neoliberal party,
for the hearing. Again, it's scheduled to start at
which is not going to actually fix any of the issues or the systemic problems.
It's unclear if and when the defense is going to be provided a copy of that indictment. Joe Tacopina, again, earlier said he may want some extra time with the defense team and with Mr. Trump to review those documents. So court officials have informed us there is a back room behind the courtroom that if they want a little extra time to go over the
red Tories and blue Tories, that's right.
Mr. Trump and converse about how they're going to handle this hearing, this 2:15 start, if it starts on time.
I'm surprised the Tories are still in charge in the UK. I mean, it's not that much of a surprise when Corbyn came so close to winning and got sabotaged from within his own party. His own party members were like, we would rather lose than win with Corbyn. And that's what they did.
Look, the defense has said right away they're going to file a motion to dismiss. They're going to file motions alleging the DA is biased.
Could that happen today?
No, they won't file the motion today. Under the rules, some motions have to be filed, I believe, within, I think it's 45 days. So, for example, within that 45 days, you might see a venue transfer motion. The strange thing about those motions is that courts in New York almost never deal with them. They would prefer to get to voir dire and actually the trial date to deal with that. But you will see some motions filed in all likelihood within 45 days of the arraignment, because that's the date that many motions have to be filed in the state of New York by the rule. So,
Hey, Brian, take that back. Canada's the 51st state. We're not even a state. We're just like a northern resource colony. We don't even count as it being a state. That's how pathetic Canada is.
Usually set a hearing date, or in New York, for example, sometimes the litigants, at least in civil court, can pick a date themselves, which the court may move around depending on scheduling. So, look, the court will accommodate dates for regular unknown litigants. They're certainly going to accommodate the wishes of these litigants because it's what they do.
The bald white guy concentration has increased. A lot of thumbs, a lot of thumb-looking fellas in there.
Because I've had trials rescheduled because a prosecutor has a prepaid vacation. So it'll give you an idea that courts will accommodate dates that are important to the litigants. The key here is, what if Trump wants, for example, a trial before the election, and the DA's office wants it after the election? How do you split that difference? That's going to be a difficult dilemma for the court. It may be avoided if both sides want it either before or after. But scheduling in this case is going to be really critical because we're not dealing with a prepaid vacation. We're dealing with a national election in just a few months. So believe me, both sides have huddled together and they've mapped out the pros and cons of scheduling this trial, whether it should be before or after the election.
But ultimately, though, it will come down, Danny, to what Donald Trump wants.
Trump and his security team. Picture perfect. Photorealistic representation in the chat from Party 69.
Blow up what his advisors have asked for in the past and declare.
I really hope that we get to see the Trump statement while we're still alive. I got another hour and a half.
Fascinating to see how the timing piece of it takes.
I can stay for another hour and a half before I get my kid from school.
Probably not going to shift it for a campaign rally or two, and we expect there to be plenty over the course of the next year and a half. But we are gearing up to be.
Hopefully, we get the Trump statement. I would like to see that live.
From now, we're gearing up to be in this presidential election, Jonathan.
Okay, we're watching folks come in that back door leading, I guess, to the courtroom.
I think what you saw a short time ago,
you can walk.
Officers sort of have parted ways and made a clear shot for the camera.
Trump was being arrested, son.
The arrival of President Trump, we are told from
this is history in the making. Expected to pick you up from school.
As of now, is expected to start on time, right on time at 2:15. So certainly
10 minutes from now.
Within the next few minutes, we would expect to see Mr. Trump.
90 minutes of riveting coverage of a door. I mean, give it up for these like news people that just have to like literally just keep finding a way to continue fucking talking and make this image of a door with blacked out curtains exciting.
In the courtroom today, but obviously to be determined. But that's the best information we have.
So based on that, let me turn to, if I can, Catherine.
It does seem like there's more and more people showing up, though. Maybe any moment we're going to get a glimpse.
At this point,
we're going to catch a glimpse of the big man himself.
Is the former president formally under arrest?
Yes, but when I say yes, but typically a white
yes, but well, this is the best way of doing this stuff.
Like he did, is met by the investigators.
Imagine if Trump was crying.
He's not going to be handcuffed. He's not has a photo taken.
All his orange makeup was all streaked from the tears.
He's going to be escorted into the courthouse with his Secret Service contingent and also the investigators. So that's sort of the difference. A typical defendant will be escorted by the DA's office investigators.
Child, if Trump can confront the justice system, you can walk your way to the house from school. Thank you.
And also probably
thank you, useless.
Investigators, and then will be brought to court. And then his
here's what is this the 10th time they've showed this?
Often we see
that's number 10, I think.
Routinely ask the defendant to surrender passports. Would that happen in a case like this?
I seriously doubt it, and I doubt the prosecutor is going to ask for it. Where in the world
is this a solo arraignment, or is he in there waiting until the guy ahead of him pleads to his drunk driving charge? That would be pretty funny to subject him to that. Actually having to spend time like in the system with the hoi polloi.
There will be his three attorneys. And this is not
who Trump hilariously pretends to speak for, despite the fact that he would never actually interact with anyone like that regularly.
In state court.
If they don't work at McDonald's.
State court, which is like a public bus station full of people bustling around. When you walk into a federal courthouse, it's like a library. I mean, there's barely anybody there. So an arraignment there might be attended by nobody. In state court, you might have 50 people waiting for their case to get called. And
Damn, that's just so interesting.
That's not what's happening today. They have set aside.
That is so
for
interesting.
the entire building, cleared it out for this, the most consequential defendant in the history of New York criminal law. So even for a hearing that's only going to be a few minutes, and by the way, the fact that they've cleared that building gives us a pretty good indicator of how this case is going.
These cops are all on overtime as well.
Really minor hearing. I hate to say minor because it is a significant point in the criminal case. But an arraignment, this much going on, what about when we get to motions hearings, jury selection?
Yeah.
There are going to have to be so many precautions taken. You see all of those officers right there for what will amount to be a 5-minute procedure. I don't think
It's good work if you can get it.
realizing how significant
These guys are all on triple overtime, I'm sure.
planning, procedure,
Yeah, we got to go fill out a bunch of forms after this.
You know, I think it was Jonathan or somebody that mentioned earlier that, look, this judge has other cases on his docket. Yeah, he kind of does, but not really. This has just become the most important case in this courthouse. And if you don't believe me, I'd venture to guess that there are some folks, and Jonathan, you may agree with me on this, there are some folks that are sitting on Rikers who originally had a court date today, and that may have been canceled, may have to wait until the next few weeks when they...
I'm moving to NYC area next month. I'm so going to go and watch that door live stream it. Yes, you have permission to restream. Hell yeah, only facts. Thank you.
We're about a little over 5 minutes until the scheduled start of this hearing. Laura, let me ask you, will
We got premium cop
Mr.
skull.
Trump be afforded an opportunity to speak at this
I mean, I'm not a big in a phrenology guy, but when you look at a lot of cops, you do have to kind of say like, huh.
It'll be interesting to see whether he actually does the one to enter the plea. Does he do
Huh.
it on his own? Does he have it do it, on his?
They do all seem to come from the same sort of stock. What's going on with that?
The whole grand jury process is secret. Within
Break out the
15 days,
calipers. That's
state is
right.
required
Yeah.
to turn
Cop
over
phrenology.
a whole bunch of material to the defense team that they have never seen before. The grand jury minutes, law enforcement's notes.
The only scientifically sound phrenology. Thank
Even
you.
people who didn't appear before the grand jury. For instance, Stormy Daniels, if she just met with prosecutors or just met with law enforcement personnel, they'll be able to now see all of that information, all of the information that was subpoenaed. We're getting some more. There's Alvin Bragg entering the courtroom there, the district attorney.
Those heads were beaten into that lumpy blob through football.
Do we think Bragg will lead the prosecution here in this case?
I don't think so. I would be surprised if he actually does the presentation. I would venture to guess it'll be Susan Hoffinger, who's been sort of the lead prosecutor on this, or Chris Conway, or one of the other prosecutors, and probably not Bragg himself, but he wants to be there to support his team, to show obviously, his support for all their work.
He'll be there to speak afterwards too. We will hear from him later on this afternoon,
Right.
and we will also hear from Donald Trump in frankly, on a much friendlier turf. We've been showing some of those aerial shots of just the sheer number of people now who are outside that courtroom. Donald Trump is going to go back to Mar-a-Lago. He's going to basically, I believe, get on the plane fairly quickly after this is all wrapped up to get down for that primetime speech that he plans to deliver in front of, frankly, a lot of people who are there to back him and to sort of rally to his side in this moment.
Danny, have you had clients who...
They got the numbers. That's right. They should. I agree.
Have been allowed to?
Every defense attorney has had clients who want to say things, who think they understand and think that, and this is a very common feature with white-collar defendants. They think, and maybe you have relatives or family members that are like this too, they think if I can only get in front of the judge and explain this all away, it's all a big misunderstanding. If I can just get up there and tell my side of the story. And what they realize, what you have to explain to them is that this is not the way to do it. Not on a podium, and often not even on the stand testifying in your defense, because the reality is that is usually not a good proposition for a defendant. But,
It should be a cyberpunk side quest. You see, like,
tell your clients not to say anything.
Don Jr., like, off to the side, he's hacking the wall cameras so his dad can't be seen. He's, like, hanging upside down from the wall, from the ceiling,
on a recorded line,
in, like, a Matrix-style, like, trench coat and sunglasses.
There is nothing more
Beep, boop,
damaging
boop, 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 boop.
often to a defendant's case than the defendant's own words, often after the case has been initiated.
And Hallie, the reason I raise it, of course, he's talked about a witch hunt. He was putting out social media.
All these accounts I follow for Russia-Ukraine updates, not happy with Trump getting arrested. Yeah. I mean, there's two things. I think there's like reactionaries that are just anti-NATO or whatever. There's that whole kind of crowd. There's also, I think, people from places that are often accused of being authoritarian just using this, showing the persecution of a former president as just like try and talk about the U.S. the way U.S. media often talks about them as well, you know?
Team. In other words, he came up to New York and surrendered himself. I remember sitting here with all of you, I think a couple of weeks ago, and talking about that being a question mark, frankly, when I guess it was a few days ago, when this indictment, news of this first leaked. He came up, he surrendered. He has been putting his attorneys out there. They've been doing the legal filings. I think his attorneys are advising him, if it's going to be him that says it, just say the words and then speak either outside.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff in CP77 that feels kind of plausible.
Mar-a-Lago, essentially. Keep in mind that his campaign has made something like, they say, $7 to $8 million plus in just the 5 days since this news first broke. They are fundraising off of this. They are selling indictment swag, T-shirts with the date of the news.
I thought the fist thing was a terrorist symbol when Obama did it. Well, I do remember in like 2008, after one of Obama's speeches, he fist bumped Michelle, and there was this picture of them like fist bumping. And I remember on Fox News they were calling it a Hezbollah fist jab or something. That was funny. Remember when we thought Obama was cool? Remember how it felt like maybe something good might happen? No, that was nice. That was a nice feeling. It's like almost 15 years later, I'm still like, oh, that was nice when that felt like in America something good might happen.
One update that we just got from
a terrorist fist bump. Yeah, that's right.
The court hearing is a bit behind schedule. So it could be a few minutes, it could be 10 minutes before the former president comes up and appears. So this 2:15 start time obviously is a few minutes behind. So we're hearing perhaps as much as 10 to 15 minutes before we see the former president. We had seen the district attorney, we've seen the executives with the Manhattan DA's
Hope did turn to cope quite quickly, yeah. Yes, it did. And there's the people are still doing cope to this day.
Be escorted into the courtroom there, surrounded by the Secret Service, and whether that's in 2 minutes, 10 minutes, we are on hold waiting for
all our Putin is a freedom Putin
until we see the former president go into court. And one other note, in terms of the extraordinary security that's going on here, with you see the court officers lining the halls, everything has been cleared out in that courtroom. Inside the courtroom, in the aisle, the former president is going to walk down to go to the defense table. They
any moment now.
1 to 2 seats in every row so that there's no one in reachable range.
Are they getting more thumb-like?
Former president, as he
kind of seems like that.
Through the courtroom to get to his defense table. This on top of the normally we're seeing the security outside the courtroom. You can imagine the level of security inside the courtroom as well.
All right, let me go to former prosecutor and NBC News legal analyst Kristen Gibbons-Fedden. What's it like to prosecute such a high-profile defendant? You were obviously involved in the Cosby case.
Yeah, you know, for the prosecutor, it's really no different than prosecuting any other crime. You follow the evidence.
Let's bring on Sarah Cooper.
You follow the law.
To comment on this stuff.
The media, it can be very, very.
She should do one of her classic Trump lip syncing. Bits.
Crazy. But the important thing is that while there's a lot of chaos going on outside of the courtroom, inside of the courtroom, it is really routine. It's going to be an arraignment. One of the things as a prosecutor, and Danny kind of mentioned this earlier on, is there's going to be a lot of motions that you wouldn't normally see in everyday trials. You're going to see the defense attorneys really file motions with regard to like change of venue. That was something that we saw in the Cosby trial as well. Statute of limitations, due process violations with the length of time that the investigation took. So you're going to see a lot of those motions, which are typically summarily dismissed, that will be pages and pages and pages of motions created by Trump's very prominent legal team. But one of the things to keep in mind is that even though there's a lot of chaos going around outside, it's going to be very routine in the courtroom.
Well, let me ask you this. I mean, juries are obviously told not to read or follow news accounts of whatever case they're on, but do prosecutors follow what's written and what's being said about their case and adjust accordingly?
I think it would be best that they do. Mainly because every member of the jury are still human beings. And so members of the public who are giving their opinions about the way that the case is going, that's a really important opinion to consider, because if they're thinking that the
Maybe we should be looking at like OAN or whatever.
prosecutor thinks that it is, then perhaps they need to change what they're doing. Now, it is important to note that prosecutors generally do have an ethical obligation not to really create a narrative, not to taint any potential jury pool or create any issues that could be raised on appeal with regard to narratives out in the public. But unless there's a gag order there, the defendants don't really have that same obligation. So in the case of Trump, I would imagine, but specifically for the Cosby trial, there was a lot of public speaking, changing the narrative of what actually was going on in the courtroom. So when the prosecutor does listen to
I don't think they're live though.
mindful that the jury
OAN's not live.
consider what has been presented from the witness stand and not anything else that really wasn't presented, which may be part of the narrative.
I'm wondering if looking at this prosecution, if they would perhaps like to set lower expectations and over-deliver.
I always think that's really important. Definitely set low expectations, over deliver. And that is really the theme with anything, mainly because what you want to do is you want to...
OAN is leaving money on the table. They should hire me as a consultant or a correspondent.
This is all about and sticking with that, taking out any cloudiness, any red herrings, then you really do end up over-delivering just by nature.
All right, Kristen, we're glad you're with us. Thank you. Let me just move on, if I can, to Kristen Welker, who's outside the courthouse. Kristen, what have you been hearing from people who are close to the former president about what we're witnessing today?
Well, Lester, I heard from one former aide to former President Trump who is still quite close to him, who said that the next couple of days are going to hurt. Still, he sees this case as a weak one.
I'm not defending Trump, but this is a somewhat bittersweet feeling of F around and find out as it pertains to the system, i.e. our American corporatocracy, etc., in that Trump's crimes have been known about even before his election and was why he was his dad's preferred son, because he had an knack for finding loopholes and clearly crossing them. Even Nixon administration sued him. It's like sort of how America has puppet dictators: enrich yourself, steal, lie, loot up to a certain point. Once your head and ego get too big and you think you're bigger than the system that allowed you to exploit and rise to the top, not based on merit, but by birthright, the system greasing the wheels, then this is what happens. Like, I think that makes sense a little bit, but I think ultimately it's an F around and find out situation for the people that believe, that fetishize these systems and these institutions, because they think that now that they're trying to enact some kind of consequences for violating these kind of precious norms and institutions, you're going to see, I think the ultimate revealing will not be that there's consequences for Trump, but that there's consequences for them.
Yeah, we've been talking about what he may say.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Brian, thank you very much for the gifted sub.
He's planning a speech in what would be considered the primetime viewing hours. Any idea what the thrust of that message will be?
Well, Lester, I think you can look to the former president's Truth Social post to get a sense of the tone.
My mom was like, you would think you would have paid off the right people by now to make this stop. My response, always pissed off too many people. Yeah, and as we were talking about before, too, one of the biggest ironies of the whole thing is that he didn't even have to pay Stormy Daniels or anyone else for silence. All those stories came out anyways, and did it do anything? Did it hurt his chances of becoming president? Nope. Did it affect his polling in any ways? No. Did it affect his base's opinion of him? The evangelical Christians that support him? Nope. So it's like he could have just not done any of this, and he would just have had no consequences anyways, and now wouldn't be in this position.
Again, Lester, just a reminder, his poll numbers have gone up in recent days. This has only emboldened him in the primary so far, Lester.
All right, we should note that that speech will be carried on our streaming channel, NBC News Now, later this evening. Let me bring Jonathan back right now. Jonathan, are we going to hear from D.A. Bragg at some point?
Yes, at 3:30. That is the scheduled press conference. Of course, a lot depends on when this court hearing gets
3:30, that's when I got to go.
But he is planning a 3:30
I don't know if I can do it.
For those of us who have covered D.A. Bragg, he will stick with
I don't know if I can do it.
within what's in the indictment and not stray pray too much. We have tried many a times on many other cases, and he is, a trained former federal prosecutor. And
but he has to know that he's already on the defense from much of the criticism we've heard the last several days.
He is certainly aware. I think he's going to outline these charges. I think he's going to explain to the best he can the rationale for bringing these charges and why they were brought now. But I don't think he's going to get involved in some of the extraneous conversations that were going to go on. He's going to address what's in the indictment, and he has sort of engaged that way with the press to date.
And that's, by the way, a picture of him going into the courthouse earlier. Right. He does hold things close to the vest. That's a description I've heard many times of him. In talking to people who know him, did they think he would have gone for this if he thought that it was weak and the way it's been described as weak?
Look, he originally, remember all the controversy? He backed off when the line prosecutors, Mark Pomerantz and that team, felt they had a case and they were ready to move forward. Let's go. And he said, time out. Let's take a look at this. And, resulted in a lot of combat inside that office and some resignations. They went back. They took a hard look at this Stormy Daniels hush money payment issue that the Southern District of New York passed on. And important to note, that was passed on after Joe Biden was elected, after Bill Barr was out of office, and that Southern District with that team of prosecutors who were, a no-nonsense group by reputation, and from what I know about them, they chose not to go after this case in a federal indictment. They did not go forward. What Alvin Bragg has now, remember, he met with Michael Cohen 20 times. This grand jury has been meeting for weeks and hearing from, the publisher of the National Enquirer, a host of witnesses and documents. So there's a lot.
Still looking at the door.
We don't. And so
Still looking at the door.
At 3:30 from Mr. Bragg.
The press conference is at 3:30. I just don't think I'm going to be able to stay that long, unfortunately. If it was possible, I would stay longer because I do genuinely want to see the Trump press conference. I would love to watch that live with all of you, but I just don't know if it's going to be possible.
We will hear from him, though, Jonathan. The way that you describe it is he's not going to get into things that are extraneous, if you will. I mean, the very real threats against him, the threats that he has received, and this ties into something we were talking about with Kristen.
I'm multitasking right now.
That Donald Trump will give at Mar-a-Lago.
I'm multitasking right now by hosting this show and watching this content and commenting on it, while also working on a merch design.
That is legally perilous for him, and there's a question on how much or if.
Marty, I just used Midjourney to do a little something. I think you might enjoy. I'm going to post it in the merch channel.
Earlier in that Truth Social post,
to go along with this
desire to go to a different venue to Staten Island.
Spectacle of systemic. What is it? Spectacle of systemic decay. Is that it?
Judge and his family, as well-known Trump haters. I guess what you're saying, it's hard to imagine him backing off that kind of a language.
So what, can only Trump supporters charge him with crimes?
If he's warned by the judge, knock it off, essentially, right? I mean, then how does he, it's tough to tell Donald Trump not to talk about something, right? But that may very well be a real possibility.
But if he's warned not to talk about it and then does deliberately disregard what the judge says, then I think you up the ante in a different way. And that's where I think the judge might be more inclined to actually issue an order about it. Everyone is saying, obviously there are free speech concerns. There's the fact that he's running for public office. If he deliberately ignores an admonishment from a judge to not talk about this case, because usually it's the defendant who wants to preserve the right to a fair trial. Usually it's the defendant who's asking for prosecutors not to talk, asking for the gag order. If he deliberately ignores what the judge says, I think that changes a lot in the minds of that judge.
You're right, and keep in mind that Donald Trump's own attorneys do not agree with his assessment of this judge. We've seen them try to clean that up and walk that back.
Although there's been a lot of debate in the legal community here in New York among the experts and those who've appeared before this judge. Will he or won't he?
Okay, Marty, I think you're going to like some of this shit.
The court administration and who helped run that courthouse was of the view this judge is not going to, quote, take the bait. David Bookstaver, in an interview yesterday, said, I know this judge. I can't imagine he's going to get involved in what Donald Trump is saying out there and on social media. Let him say
one
what's
more.
going on.
It's hard to use Midjourney because there's so many people using it at every time. time your shit gets lost in the
and be all
queue.
business here and not get involved in that. There are other legal experts who say there is no way a judge will sit and tolerate this type of language being bandied about his court and or the prosecutor for that matter. And it'll be interesting to see if it's the judge, if it's the DA who bring this up at all, or if it just goes unaddressed today.
Let me bring you to the conversation, Chuck Todd, regarding the DA, regarding the kind of the history of this case. Chuck, you talked to Cy Vance this past weekend. What did he tell you?
I did, and he actually addressed this topic, and he said,
Okay,
look,
check out the
issuing a
merch
warning to Trump's
channel.
lawyers saying they should put
I'm already going to post some images
to
in
their
there.
client of not committing
Working on
a
this
criminal
idea
offense
here.
in his criticism of the judge or the DA, because he could end up adding a charge. A charge could get added. He described it as an obstruction of governmental
like this.
administration, which is essentially interfering with or threatening with you. You throw that on top, and as he said, let me quote him, you could take what perhaps we think is not the strongest case. When you add a count like that, put it in front of a jury, it can change the jury's mind about the severity of the case that they're looking at. So the point he was making is that Trump's own lawyers ought to be warning Trump, the more you do this, the more this could happen, where the DA adds a charge, and that only...
What's the English for that practice of filling airtime with saying a lot of nothing? It's truly amazing. Like it's so banal. They've been, oh boy. Oh my goodness. Look at that. There we go. That's what all this dog and pony show is all about. Oh my.
Former President Trump with a stone.
That just scrambled my whole brain there. We saw it.
Shouted him. We didn't hear the question, but then
Oh my Lord.
inside the courtroom without engaging, and so now begins.
That was outrageous.
And I can provide a bit
We
of
stared at that.
what the delay was. Remember, this
We
was set
stared
for
at
15
that wall. Let's see it again. That's right.
that the
We got to see it again.
did give the defense an advance copy before today's hearing so that they could review the charges in advance of the hearing, so the hearing didn't start and then they asked for a delay and then go into the back to have their meeting. So from one source,
That means it should be unsealed.
so that means it will be unsealed as soon as the judge takes the bench. It is customary in many cases.
I want to see the footage again with this
to
over it.
provide courtesy
I hope this
copies
doesn't get the
when
show.
defense lawyers or the defendant arrives to facilitate.
If I just play it for a moment.
But again, that's just one source saying that is their understanding of what this 15-minute or so delay from the 2:15 start time was.
All right, Catherine Christian is still with us. She worked in the Manhattan District Attorney's Office. You have been through this many times. Give us an idea of what will happen typically right now, how long this moment will take.
Well, it shouldn't, and if it is true what Jonathan said, that the defense were given a copy of indictment, that should make it a shorter proceeding, because they will have the opportunity, or they had the opportunity to review it, and they're not basically reviewing it as soon as it's handed to them in the well of the courtroom. So what you just saw Mr. Trump go in, that's typically how someone who is not, incarcerated would come in. They would just come in through the front doors, albeit not surrounded by Secret Service. And he will join his attorneys on one side of the courtroom, they call it in the well, at a table. I don't know if all 4 of his attorneys will be seated with him, but they might. And on the
This is
other
historic,
side,
folks.
directly
This
on
is
the
a
opposite
historic
side of him will
day.
be the
Who else?
prosecutors on the case.
There's no one
Not
else.
every
There's
one
no
of
one
them.
else. God,
First
I'm
row
so
in
sorry to
all
be fidgeting with my
courtrooms are
fucking
reserved
hair
for
all
the
day.
attorneys.
It's really not good.
side will be
There's no one else I would have rather hung out with
people who are part of the firm
and
will be
spent this
behind Mr. Trump
historic
and his attorneys.
day, experienced this historic moment
If the district
than each and
attorney
every one of
is
you.
not gonna be personally,
We got him.
Doing the arraignment, he'll be seated right behind the assistant
We got him.
attorneys who are assigned to the case, and the judge will be there. The chief, they call it the bridge officer, who is the court officer, the court clerk, the court stenographer. So the well will not be congested with a lot of people.
It was even a Scorsese freeze frame.
Seated behind that first row of attorneys.
So
They ended up getting Donald on a technicality.
Future court dates, will the former president be required to appear in person?
He should not for an adjournment.
He's just going back to be a regular jamoke.
Motion, and then there'll be adjournment for the prosecutors to respond and adjournment for the decision. It's not necessary for him to be
That was
here to
perfect,
give the
that-
decision of the court, and that's not getting special treatment. COVID has shown us that you don't have to appear unless it's a necessary proceeding. But anything, like a hearing, he will have to be there.
We were, I'm sure you heard part of our discussion earlier.
America's back. We are so back.
Former president might put out there on social media.
We are so
The
back.
DA's office would typically, in a case like this, follow closely what is being said, how it's being said, the tone of what's being said, and whether action is necessary.
Absolutely, because there are charges. There's inciting a riot, which arguably, he hasn't done yet. But, the more that his rhetoric, if he continues to put it up out there on those posts or whatever he says tonight, harassment, making threats against someone, whether it's the judge or the prosecutors, they're going to be following everything that he says. And also, those are statements that will be used, guaranteed, against him during the trial. So if you're the attorney for Mr. Trump or any other defendant, you're always saying, just please keep your mouth shut. We know that's not going to happen here. But they will be following every word that he says, as the defense is following every word that Michael Cohen says when he goes on his press tour that he's been doing.
So where we are, if you're just joining
In America,
us,
justice prevails. That's
Donald
right.
Trump surrendering himself to the New York Manhattan DA.
That's what we always say about America.
Manhattan today.
That's what we always say.
Arrested and now in the process of arraignment. He stepped into the courtroom just a few minutes ago with his lawyers, as it's been explained to us. A rather straightforward and not lengthy process as he goes through the official processes of becoming a defendant, and it becomes the state of New York versus Donald Trump.
He's made the American Trump has made the American justice system great again. That's correct.
Understand it is to go back to LaGuardia Airport.
Freeze frame. Trump went on to win another presidential election and is still yet to serve a day in prison.
In remarks that he had previously scheduled and had advertised. But again, we saw him a few minutes ago going to the court, very stern, stone face, as I would describe it. A question was put to him. He gave a acknowledgement of a glance and then looked forward and exited into the courthouse itself. Allie, you want to talk about this moment in history?
Okay, hold on. I want to try and do something here.
A couple of things strike me.
Let's see if I can pull this off.
Universe of people who now know specifically the charges against Donald Trump.
Never see justice like this in godless China. That's right.
That his defense team now knows what specifically.
Let me see if I can pull this off here.
As Laura has talked about, a felony, what the underlying charges are, what the underlying intent to commit another crime has been. They are now read in on that. They are now aware, which means Donald Trump is now aware. And I think that is important context for the moment that we have just shown and that we have just played here. I think it is going to be, I don't know for sure, I saw some look like still photographers come out of the courtroom just a minute ago, which makes me think any minute now we will likely see some of those first images from inside the courtroom of a former president being arraigned for crimes and on these charges, whether you think they're serious or not, whether they are going to be politically challenging for him or not, or perhaps politically helpful.
Let's see if I can do this
here.
here.
A significant moment, even given all the history that we have seen of this former president before and during his time in the White House, Lester.
Chuck Todd, let me bring you back into the conversation. We've all, as I noted, we've all sat here and covered moments of history involving Donald Trump, and to watch him make his way into that courthouse.
Let me see if I can time. I think I got to go back a little bit.
Look on his
someone, whether it's the judge will be there, the chief, they call it the bridge officer, who's the court officer, the court clerk, the court stenographer. So the well will not be congested with a lot of people. The audience will be seated behind that first row of attorneys.
So.
The only thing I only just messed one thing up, though. I messed one thing up. The background opacity. It's the only thing. Give me one more chance. One more chance, okay? I got this.
So we call it the brain to the case, and the judge will be there, the chief, they call it the bridge officer, who's the court officer, the court clerk, the court stenographer. So the well will not be congested with a lot of people. the audience will be seated behind those attorneys.
So in terms of scheduling.
That's good. I'll probably get censored for playing the instrumental part of Layla so many times. How do you pronounce that word? That's not pronounced opacity? Is it opacity? God damn it. No, it isn't. You know what? I'm taking a stand. I'm taking a stand here. No, it isn't. You're all wrong about this.
Will future
You're all wrong.
Other democracies have put their presidents on trial. Other democracies have put former presidents in jail, including Israel, including France. But there is something fitting that the
Up ass titty. That's right.
This former president faces a criminal charge. It's in his hometown, and it's in New York City. And in many ways, if you follow Donald Trump for most of his adult life, his whole goal was to become well-respected, to be the man in New York City, and he was able in many ways to become famous and to become infamous, but he never got the respect he always demanded. He ran for president hoping that that would break through, that the elites of New York, the elites of Manhattan would embrace him, the elites of Washington would embrace him. That's never going to happen, so of course he's taken this other direction and has gone in this.
I don't know how this nerd is still on TV.
At the end of the day,
I don't know.
the former president's been
Anyway, it's a reference to Goodfellas.
He's been arrested. The country is still standing.
For whoever was
I think
just
it is
asking about
a
that.
reminder of the strength of our institutions. We sit here and talk about how weak they are or how unpopular they are right now. I do think that this is a day that we ought to remind ourselves that whatever you think of these institutions, they're working as intended. He's going to get as fair of a trial as is possible under these circumstances, and the chips are going to fall where they may.
Danny, how do you feel about the health of the rule of law as it's perceived and faith in the rule of law?
The rule of law has been restored.
Does erode some of that.
Law for lawyers is our faith in some sense. I mean, it governs not just our profession, but we're governed by rules of ethics. And so
the system works, folks.
As much as we criticize
the system works.
Plenty of complaints about courthouses and the fact that they're not very tech savvy. And I can make all kinds of complaints about the fact that, why don't we have this indictment right
Yeah, he
away?
wasn't wrong when he said it's working as intended, for sure.
Jonathan has two, Laura has two. They're not the Apple Store. They're probably don't even have many scanners on each floor. So
Yeah, this really just all amounts to like a mass key jingling.
The only thing that we
for the pundits, for the audience, for everybody.
Other countries, other places that don't treat the accused.
Just a little key jingling.
The United States does.
Who doesn't appreciate a little key jingling sometimes?
Me included, part of my closing argument at a trial that we do live in a special place, and we empower 12 peers, sometimes more, sometimes
Oh yeah, the beautiful. It's time to wax poetic about that beautiful American justice system.
of another person, another citizen.
I'm told we have the first photo from inside the courtroom, and keep in mind this would be prior to the actual beginning of the arraignment.
Oh my goodness, folks! Look at this.
President Trump somewhat slumped over at the desk.
Get the body language expert in there.
And he's there with, by the way, his attorneys, obviously, including somebody who was just brought on within the last 24 hours, somebody who knows this district, Manhattan, well, somebody who understands what it's like to the charges and what it's like to defend a high-profile defendant of Paul Manafort.
Yeah, obviously, the former campaign chairman he represented for a time in front of a New York jury, and obviously those cases were dismissed, but he's a former federal prosecutor. He's the one right there on the left-hand side who's just joined the team, Todd Blanche, represented Paul Manafort.
Okay, that one we got a clip. That was even perfect.
Charges, which is one of the issues we believe at the center of this.
That one we got a clip.
And so as we look at this picture, we may get more. I think 5 photographers were allowed in the courtroom.
So it was for the preliminary part of this hearing.
This is the real end of history. That's right.
Take their shots, and with the extraordinary photo.
It's happening, finally.
Then they were told to leave. And as soon as they left, the hearing was going to begin. And the guidance we got was the hearing was going to go about 15 minutes or so. And then Donald Trump will be walking out of court and go down the elevator. Why haven't we heard anything about what's happening inside that hearing? Again, no cell phones, no laptops. There's no communication allowed, or you'll be held in contempt by the judge if you're caught attempting to use any electronic device to communicate what's happening inside that courtroom.
So the
before the hearing ends.
So the video camera is that sole shot we had in the hallway. That's the only one that's allowed in this
Inside
process.
the building, you're allowed on the 15th floor. The judge did allow for cameras to be in the hallway, the public hallway, but he will not allow a television camera into that courtroom at all, and still cameras just at the very beginning of what was going to be that hearing.
I can imagine people will see what they want to see, perhaps in this photo and body language, but it makes the statement more powerful than anything we've seen up to this point. That this is a president who's now reaching a new level of accountability. And faces these charges, which apparently we believe his
Seriously, can someone clip the last round of the Layla finish that I did? I'm going to post it on Twitter
exactly what these counts are, what
before it gets copyright striked.
And what they plan to build this case on.
A different photo here of the former president now from one of the photographers.
Oh, we got another one.
Again, prior to these proceedings beginning, you talk about accountability, Lester, and for Democrats, and we've seen reaction from many of them today as well. We've talked a lot about the Republican Party because of Donald Trump's grip on that party, because of the dynamics politically as it relates to the people.
The hair, it's been talked about a lot, but the hair really is something else, isn't it?
New generation of leadership come up in the GOP, but we've heard from Democrats who I think
it really is something else.
In their view, and another photo here, that this accountability is overdue.
Thank you, Dave.
In some ways. Of course, on the other side of the aisle, you have this continued drumbeat of the idea of his attorneys, obviously, including somebody who was just brought on within the last 24 hours, somebody who knows this district, Manhattan, well, somebody who understands what it's like to the charges and what it's like to defend a high-profile defendant of Paul Manafort.
Yeah, obviously, the former.
That's good. I like that. It's like a lovely little storm cloud that hangs above his eyebrows. It really is something else. He truly is a uniquely American figure.
Chuck Rosenberg. Yep.
I had a file in the coif. There we go.
Into the conversation as we await the ending of this arraignment and the first bit of information about the indictment itself. You, as a prosecutor, you must go into a case. I can only imagine feeling 100% sure in your case. There's been a lot said about this indictment and what we don't know and what it might be and whether it's an untested legal theory. Is it hard for you to imagine a prosecutor under such scrutiny already to come in with a case that appears weak from the get-go?
Yeah, I'm not sure I've been 100% sure of anything in my life, Lester, but I can tell you this. The standard that you need to prevail in court as a prosecutor is proof beyond a reasonable doubt. It's the highest standard in the law. The standard you need to obtain an indictment is probable cause, one of the lowest.
I'm going to send that one to Jesse Hawkins. He's going to like that.
Between those two things, between probable cause to indict and proof beyond a reasonable doubt to convict, that's where prosecutors make their money. And they don't make a lot, by the way. You have to have a degree of certainty. You have to have faith in the investigation. You have to trust in your witnesses. You have to have credible evidence that corroborates your witnesses. You have to believe you're going to win, or I don't believe it's appropriate to bring a case. You don't bring a case just because you're curious as to what the jury will do. You trust in it, you believe in it, and therefore I believe it's ethical to go forward. But 100% certainty, I'd be very surprised if any prosecutor told me.
AI Trump courtroom images. I was actually just looking at Midjourney while I've been doing this. Kafifi, their Tech 9 neck, very nice, very nice. I was just looking at Midjourney before, while we were doing this. And there's all kinds of Trump prison stuff on Midjourney being created at the moment.
Differently than we saw.
I have the best commissary, the best. And when they have the commissary like I do, you make some friends. Yes, I've been having a good time in the clink, the best time. A lot of people in here, and I mean a lot of innocent just like me. My Trump impression still just sucks. There's no excuse. There's no excuse. It's 2023, and I still can't even I can barely do a passable Trump. It's just awful. Despite my, as you know, folks, my chameleonic ability to mimic other people and other cultures. For some reason, this guy with this very specific cartoonish way of speaking, it just escapes me. I don't know. I really don't know.
Many countries.
But I think maybe my bad one has a certain charm to it as well.
Law, but it's a construct. We built it, and if we're not careful with it, because it's a precious commodity, we can lose it. So far, I believe the courts have done a magnificent job. We saw that in the run-up to the election, post-election, since January 6th, and again today. I think you're going to see the same thing. Courts around the country, state and federal, conducting themselves in a thoughtful, dignified, professional manner, and upholding this really precious thing that we have, the rule of law.
What do you
it's so precious.
There is to
the rule of law,
the
rule of law,
the
folks.
DA, the prosecutor in this
there's
case,
nothing that's above and beyond
Mr.
the
Trump's
rule of
other
law in
legal
the United
experiences,
States.
His tendency to kind of
Exactly. Thank
delay
you.
the
I love. That's my
process.
favorite part of the
What might
coverage
they
of
take
today.
away
The
from it?
waxing poetic about all these beautiful institutions.
Almost all of Mr. Trump's other legal
I love it.
experiences have been in the
Hang on, folks. I'm just going to go to the bathroom and then I'm going to come back. All right. I got another 40 minutes to go. I'll be back in a moment. Yeah, the rule of law is so respected. That's why they got the highest prison population.
Wear down the other side. Criminal cases are different things.
Be back in a
They
moment.
have their own life cycle, and you can't continuously delay, particularly if you have a good judge presiding, as we apparently have with Judge Merchan. So I'm not sure that the prosecutors ought to look at Mr. Trump's history in the civil litigation realm and draw much from it, one way or the other, because living in a criminal case is very different than living in a civil case.
All right, I want to go right to Kristen Welker outside the courtroom. We are getting word now of that indictment that has been unsealed. Kristen, what can you tell us?
Lester, I'm just going to read this note that we just got from Adam Reese, who is inside the courthouse. Let me read it to you. Former President Trump pleads not guilty to 34 counts of falsifying business records related to hush money payments in the 2016. Former President Donald Trump pleaded not guilty in a Manhattan courtroom, again, to 34 counts of falsifying business records and conspiracy for his alleged role in hush money payments to 2 women toward the end of his 2016 presidential campaign. The indictment, the first against a former president, was unsealed in a brief proceeding before Judge Merchan. So again, Lester, Mr. Trump pleading not guilty to 34 counts of falsifying business records. Obviously, Laura and Danny will have the ins and outs of what this means. But again, this is significant, this is historic, and it is unprecedented. And we now know that Mr. Trump has seen the charges against him, and he has pleaded not guilty, Lester.
Danny, first thoughts.
Conspiracy, very significant. Conspiracy is a very effective tool used by prosecutors to charge groups of people and hold them accountable for all acts in furtherance of the conspiracy. But the big question now arises, who is the conspiracy with? Because a conspiracy involves two or more people who agree to engage in some kind of criminal act, some unlawful objective. If you were betting, the most likely co-conspirator might be Michael Cohen, who's not charged in this indictment, but he might be one of the alleged co-conspirators. We don't know yet, but it could also be a signal that maybe the DA didn't use federal election law as that predicate to boost this case from misdemeanor land up to a felony. Just as a quick recap, the falsification of business records statute in New York is a default misdemeanor. However, if the falsification is used in furtherance of or to commit another crime, it is bumped up to a felony.
I'm pleading guilty to loving this drama as well.
Non-violent, I believe it's Class D felony. Think 3 years statutory maximum sentence.
That's the legal term. That's the official legal definition.
If that is the predicate felony, if it involves conspiracy or something that involves state law, then there's going to be no way to throw out that at the outset and claim that, hey, this is a federal election law and therefore New York cannot enforce it. Alvin Bragg may have decided, hey, we don't want to try and implicate federal law because that's going to be a motion from the defense. That's going to make things very difficult for us, and we could lose. The bottom line is there's no clear answer whether federal election law can support the aggravation of this New York crime to a felony. So it could be the case that Bragg's office cast about for a New York State crime, and maybe we'll see it in the form of that conspiracy. Whatever it is, we don't know what it is yet. And as Jonathan said, most of these indictments are not speaking indictments. They're going to be short and plain statements, the bare minimum to satisfy what an indictment has to say. It's the conservative thing to do. Prosecutors are generally conservative. They're not going to want to put a lot of information out there that they don't need to. But the conspiracy, to me, very significant, but we won't know exactly what ups the falsification of business records to a felony until we see that indictment. We need a little more information.
We need to see what was the purpose of the conspiracy, who was in the conspiracy, what were the so-called overt acts. You actually have to take a step in furtherance of that conspiracy. You don't actually have to complete the conspiracy.
I said to you to going out like Stan Chera.
Through with it. You can just intend to go through with it.
I wish there was audio of Trump saying that. We only got a secondhand report of the whole Stan Chera thing.
But we know, of course,
it would have been nice to get
the woman who alleges that she had this affair with Donald
actual
Trump back
audio
in 2006.
on that one.
So this goes back quite a while. And then obviously Karen McDougal is the other one that's been publicly reported. We'll have to see the charging documents, but those are the two women that we believe were at the center of this investigation. Michael Cohen paid the money to Stormy Daniels, the $135,000. The money that goes to Karen McDougal is actually structured a little bit differently. That doesn't come from Michael Cohen. That actually comes from the National Enquirer, which engaged in this practice of so-called catch and kill, where they would take negative stories and bury them so that they couldn't see the light of day.
They own them, but they don't get out.
Exactly. And so they're actually the ones who paid the money to Karen McDougal. And then they enter into an agreement, actually, with federal prosecutors some time ago, where they agreed to sort of bear all, if you will, about what all happened. And as a part of that non-prosecution agreement, you see
it's funny that this all stems from having sex one time, not even an ongoing affair. For sure, it can't have been great either, right?
Which of course
it had to have been at least very mid.
Spell it out more explicitly than we've seen before.
I was going to say, so walk me through,
like at the
does this mean
best
that
possible
they
case
have gotten
scenario.
past this idea of an untested legal theory, and they're more in, I guess, more comfortable waters?
We need to see the charging papers. We need to see exactly how they describe how they are elevating.
Did he even have sex? We don't know.
Normally a misdemeanor
we don't know.
To a felony.
The key is, are they using a federal
They also
crime?
watch Shark
Because
Week. That's
I can
right.
promise you the most immediate motion will be from the defense that New York State cannot enforce federal law. But of course, the question is, are they enforcing it, or are they using it as a springboard, as is allowed under New York law, to elevate this crime from a misdemeanor to a felony? The actual law itself is vague. Yes, it says New York law, but then it has like a catch-all provision that says any rule, order, regulation. So the question arises, is federal election law a rule, order, regulation? And of course, the debate can go on back and forth. It may be the case that Alvin Bragg felt confident that, yes, we can, maybe we're not enforcing federal election law, but we can use it under New York law to make this misdemeanor, an otherwise misdemeanor, into a felony, and we'll take our chances with the defense's motion. Or it could be instead that they decided to make it as airtight as they could and find a New York state law, let's say a tax law, let's say New York State's equivalent of RICO.
Mid for her, who Stormy's a pro. Well, it was certainly mid for her. I'll tell you that. Absolutely, talk about a best case scenario.
An organization or corporation a criminal. In other words, using an organization or corporation to do the crimes and insulate the individual humans that are in that corporation. So that's what RICO does, and New York has a version of that. They could have used that. They may have even proceeded with an extortion theme. That was something tossed around by Mark Pomerantz.
Hello, $27. What's up?
Maybe if you look at Stormy Daniels as the extortioner, and I'm just being figurative here, hypothetically, if Stormy Daniels was extorting Donald Trump, and that would be a weird thing because Donald Trump would then be the victim, but if she was, then this is potentially money laundering, right? Because money laundering is concealing ill-gotten proceeds, and in this case, extortion could qualify. But again, that wouldn't be a slam dunk either. So Alvin Bragg had a lot of decisions to make when it came to this indictment, and we're going to learn so much when we see exactly, or when we learn exactly what laws, if indeed this is a falsification of business records that is boosted to a felony, we're going to learn a whole lot about their theory of the case when we learn what exactly is the crime that they used to make this a felony. Because here's what I think we can all agree on. This is not 30 plus misdemeanors. Procedurally, that doesn't
Didn't
even
take
really
long
work
to
in New
insinuate
York. You can't
Stormy
convene
Daniels was
a grand
actually the
jury
criminal.
to return a true bill on a bunch of misdemeanor onlys. So really for us, the key is what is in that indictment. We still need to know exactly what the theory of the case is.
We know.
I'm sorry.
I was going to say Alvin Bragg was in the courtroom. We don't know if he spoke, but we know he was there.
Right, and we're still waiting to hear if the hearing is officially over. But one question for Danny or for Laura. Isn't it possibly just simpler than that? Michael Cohen pleaded guilty to committing these crimes. And if Donald Trump is accused on the misdemeanor of falsifying records to help someone else commit a felony, the felony doesn't have to be committed by the individual himself, correct? It could be helping someone else do it. And Michael Cohen has already pleaded guilty to
You can count
a
on
felony.
me. You're going to have
So
good
isn't
old
it
Rob
possible
to
that
talk
it's
you
that
through all
simple?
But the
this.
felony that he pled guilty to is a federal campaign violation. And typically, that's something you would see federal prosecutors handle, not state
Jay
prosecutors.
Schmaltz, thanks for the gifted sub.
And they passed.
Thank you, Jay
Debate
Schmaltz.
about why they passed.
Let me, I'm sorry to interrupt, but NBC News producer Adam Reese was just in the courthouse. He joins us on the telephone with details about the charges and about what he saw. Adam, take it away.
Lester, good afternoon. We all started at about 2:32 when the judge came in. Just prior to that, former President Trump entered the courtroom wearing a blue suit, a white shirt, and a red tie. He slowly walked past the reporters seated. He almost sort of ambled his way into the courtroom. He took his seat at the defense table in between his four attorneys. He was seated just in between his attorney Susan Nichols and Joe Tacopina. Todd Blanche, who was just added yesterday, was sitting at the end. He spoke on behalf of President Trump. Chris Conroy was the prosecutor, the assistant district attorney. He began by saying that there were 34 counts of falsification.
Yeah, we need more body language analysis. I think it would be great if Trump, if Johnny Cochran was still around, if Trump got Johnny Cochran, if he brought him onto his legal team. That'd be good. I'm sure he would if he was. I'm sure Trump checked to see if he was available.
Business records in the first degree.
Without realizing he died like 20 years ago.
President Trump firmly said he pleads not guilty. The prosecutors handed over the indictment. They said it was unsealed at 1:30. In describing the indictment, they said that Mr. Trump
This
tried to
coverage is a search result for liberal JOI.
Election
We can
identify and suppress negative information. This was covert and illegal payments at Mr. Trump's direction.
I would like to see
Michael Cohen,
some of
the purpose was to suppress this affair.
the freakouts before we have to
He
go.
paid Cohen an doing so, he falsified those business records. He falsified it as cash. This was concealed.
Look at this absolute nerd. Look at this absolute fucking nerd. The fucking Doge thing is so annoying. Goddamn.
Like Trump or not like him, whether you're for him or not for him, today is a bad day for all of us. Today, American politics crosses a line that it's never going to come back from. After today, especially on the basis of how ridiculous
The idea that crime might not be legal for presidents.
Every prosecutor in America that wants to make a name for themselves now is going to have permission to basically go after someone in the other party. What's going to stop some Republicans?
But they can't just do that, though, if they don't have evidence that they've committed actual crimes, though. They can't just you can't get indicted because someone just made something up about you. Right? Like, that's the unspoken thing there. Like, there is actual stuff here, whether you think it's nothing or a lot or whatever. Like, there's genuine laws that have been violated and broken here. It's not like you can just make something up and then a jury indicts someone over it. That's not how that shit works. It's just a given that they're all criminals. He's giving the game away, isn't it? He's giving the game away because they're all corrupt. They're all guilty of far worse crimes than this.
Or conservative prosecutor now from saying, well, now I'm going to go after Joe Biden.
You should drink the water.
Or his family.
Remember that? The water?
Or Bill Clinton or Hillary Clinton or Nancy Pelosi, whoever. What's going to stop him? Nothing's going to stop him, because today we set a new normal. Today we set the new normal that if you really want to take someone down, nothing should stop you. You should be able to manipulate the law any way you want to charge someone. And what really is damaging is that the charges here are absurd. You're talking about a misdemeanor, if proven, a misdemeanor that had a statute of limitation that expired.
Well, and isn't it not that though? Like, didn't they say there are no misdemeanors, and it's like 30 something? Didn't they say that?
So this prosecutor has decided to link it to a federal charge, election law charge, that the federal government decided not to pursue, and all of it built on the testimony of a convicted liar. A convicted liar
who was Trump's legal representation.
But it's more than just political. It's poison to our country. It will permanently change politics in America forever. We are going to regret this day, whether you like Trump or not. We are going to regret this day for a very long time. We are setting a new normal, a damaging new normal, that is going to disfigure American
He never recovered from the Chris Christie takedown. No, Christie ended this guy's whole career, which is one positive thing that he contributed. It was also funny how Rubio was held up as being this conservative golden boy, because liberal media loved Marco Rubio, right? He took some sensible, moderate positions. He's got the Cuban background, even though his family literally escaped from the Batista regime and not Castro. That's the one thing he tries to avoid mentioning. And they tried to build him up as being like the new hot young conservative guy, and it just fizzled. Just no one bought it. No one bought it at all. And then Chris Christie just annihilated him. And part of that also is because he was willing to work with the Democrats on immigration reform, right? And then as soon as the conservative base got mad about the immigration reform, they refused to vote for their own thing that they had negotiated. Classic. These guys, they're full of political bravery, all of these folks. Remember the water? Remember that? Marjorie Taylor Greene says, Communist Democrats arrested President Trump because he's the only man standing in their way as they fight for a hostile takeover of America. We will never abandon him. Communist Democrats. I fucking wish.
In the war room?
Mm-hmm.
He's the only way you do it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that expensive.
Isn't Bannon in legal trouble as well?
Yes, I can hear you, Steve.
So give us why are you up there? You're from the state of, we hear you perfectly. You're from the state of Georgia. Why are you outside 100 Center Street today in Lower Manhattan, ma'am?
Count me in. I'm here to protest and use my First Amendment rights to stand up against not the prosecution, the persecution and the weaponization of government against the former president of the United States and the top Republican presidential candidate for 2024. I'm here to stand up against communism today, Steve.
Congressman Green, the mayor of New York, Eric Adams, specifically singled you out as a hooligan that's going to cause a problem and that you're dangerous and that you got to back off and go home. Your thoughts, ma'am?
He didn't just single me out, Steve. He threatened me. He called me by name and threatened me. The mayor of New York City, I believe, is a thug. And he sent his people here today. They had an organized text alert that went out calling.
And that's like being that's super racist, calling Eric Adams a thug, number one. And the idea too that they're calling Eric Adams this like progressive liberal communist. He's like a right wing. He's like a right wing conservative. Like that's how fucked up America's political discourse is, and the political spectrum. Like literally a right wing pro cop conservative. And according to Marjorie Taylor Greene, he's like a radical, he's basically Malcolm X. I have a sneaking suspicion that this lady is going to be president of the United States at some point. I really do. Don't you have that kind of feeling? Don't you have that feeling?
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Orange man bad.
That's right. Moist Owlettes, thank you for the 25 months of Tier 1. I'm not trying to manifest, Fart Party. I'm not trying to manifest. I'm simply saying I take no pleasure in reporting this. Believe me. Only MTG can stop the spread of the milking factories. I take no pleasure in reporting this. She's on TV all the time. They have the same fascination with her. She's the only one in the conservative movement that I think is like approaches like what Trump can bring to the table. She's on TV all the time. They can't stop talking about her, and people like her. Like, right? There's a big audience for the stuff that she says, no matter how ridiculous it is. You know, there's a big audience in America for that. Of course, the people in the moderates and the elites are not going to be happy about it, but there's a big audience for that. I think that's the most American outcome, Johnny. The first woman president would be a far right, unhinged psychopath. I think that's all. That just feels like destiny to me. In the same way, like in the UK government right now, there's all these like South Asian fascists basically running the Conservative Party in the UK. She could be Trump's running mate. Absolutely. I think so. I feel like it'll probably be Nikki Haley. It'll probably be Trump and Nikki Haley. And they'll do the same kind of historic thing with her, right? And the first woman UK PM is also a fascist BOS. That's absolutely right. Yeah. Honestly, it'd be really funny if Republicans used the Hillary playbook for MTG and called everyone a sexist Buttigieg bro if they don't vote for her. I don't think that playbook would work very well with her, but it would have worked. It would have worked for someone like Condoleezza Rice or someone like that. Liberals, absolutely. If there was a choice between like a Bernie character and or a Condoleezza Rice, all these liberals would have just lined up to vote for Condoleezza for sure. I don't know if they could be convinced with MTG because she's just that unhinged, but. I think MTG is the favorite for running mate. I mean, I could definitely see it. I think probably the smarter choice would be Nikki Haley, but it certainly would not surprise me.
what I would say Antifa to bring their whistles, pots and pans, all kinds of instruments to make all kinds of noise to drown me out and drown others here today that are protesting
Yeah, I saw
and
that
here
in Scotland
supporting
as well,
President
yeah.
Trump. The mayor
Which is
of
actually
New
good in
York
that
City,
case.
Mayor Adams, owes me an apology. I'm an elected member of Congress. I represent hundreds of thousands of people from Northwest Georgia, but I also represent Americans all over the country that support Make America Great Again and support President Trump.
Congressman Green, I want to make sure we're
Bannon's
clear.
in legal
You're
trouble too. There's no
accusing the
fucking
mayor of
consequences
actually
for any of
helping
these
to
guys.
organize a counter
Bannon
protest
got
to drown
indicted
your
as well. Look
voicemail.
at, he's right back on his bullshit. His like Chinese billionaire benefactor
Yes, he called me out by name. He called
arrested
me out
as
by
well.
name
No
and
consequences.
threatened
There's
me.
never any consequences.
He warned me, and I've never broken a law in my life. I've never committed violence. Everyone knows this. But by doing what he did, it was a dog whistle. It was a dog whistle to the radical left here in New York City, and he sent them. And I fully believe that, and that's how I feel. He should have never done that. You know, a mayor of a city is to welcome members of Congress and to make sure that they're safe. They do not warn them and do not treat them the way that he treated me. He threatened me, and I believe it was a dog whistle to the radical left here in New York City.
She's talking about dog
sending them
whistling.
here to
The
our
radical
peaceful
leftists like
protest,
Eric Adams.
where we're gathering here in this park in front of the courthouse in this unprecedented, unconstitutional witch hunt against Donald J. Trump. And that's what the mayor of New York did to me.
Congressman Green, before I let you go, what is the Republican
Radical
House
leftist
gonna do
thugs
about
like
this? You're
Mayor
one
of
the
New York
firebrands
City,
up there.
Eric
What
Adams.
action is going to be taken to make sure this travesty gets shut down, ma'am?
Congress has to act. We have to use the full power of the Oversight Committee and the Judiciary Committee. We have to call Alvin Bragg in because he is colluding
Racist,
with Joe
Soros-backed
Biden's
thugs.
Department of Justice,
Just getting all
weaponizing
the
government
bingo, dog
against
whistle
our
bingo.
top Republican presidential candidate. This is political persecution. This is not justice. President Trump is the most vetted American in United States history. Everyone knows he's innocent. But what we have to do in Congress is we have to hold them accountable for this abuse and perversion of the justice system and this collusion between the federal government into the Manhattan DA's office.
Congressman Green, we'll put up your social.
Okay, so got a bit of a question, folks. What do we think of this? It's a merch thing. We've been working on merch while streaming. What do we think about this? It's kind of cool, right? I like it. I like it. It's cool. We love it, don't we, folks? Okay. I think we should have probably Fox News live as well. I would like to see some like unhinged. I would like to pay money for that on art on a shirt. Well, I think you'll be able to. I think we're going to make this into some actual merch. I would like to see some like, where would I even find this? Like, I want to see like, because I have to go in 15 minutes. So I have about another 5-10 minutes to look at stuff here. I want to see like a guy in sunglasses in his car freaking out about this. Where do you think would be the best way to find that content right now? That's what I want to see right now. I don't know about you. No, I don't want this. What? Stop it. Ah. I really want to see someone ranting and raving about this. Just looking for a few different things here. Okay, it says, I'm seeing a Fox News thing. It says live, Trump delivers remarks in Mar-a-Lago after arraignment. So he's going back to Florida to do this remarks? It says 8:15 p.m. So I don't know what the deal is with that. Dun, 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 dun. Blum bum ba bum bum ba bum ba bum 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 ba. Bum 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 ba bum 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 ba.
Defense table and prosecution's table from the audience, from those in the gallery. But I got to tell you, it was a really relatively small courtroom. Big by the standards of the Manhattan courthouse, but small in general. I counted about 20 or 30 people as spectators in that room. There was an adjacent overflow room with another 10 or 20 of us, and we were a little more liberated to leave the courtroom before the proceedings ended. Those in the courtroom are fixed there, likely by Secret Service request or security request, until all of this is over.
When you talked about that red velvet rope, it reminded me of the most recent pictures of Donald Trump at his own club in Mar-a-Lago, where he sits in the middle of the dining room and ropes himself off from other members of his own club while he's having dinner on a Saturday night in an unusual sort of circumstance. Robert?
Just an additional note, when you look at that picture right now, the person at the end of the row is a Trump advisor and lawyer named Boris Epstein. And he is someone who has become a confidant of the former president. He's close to the Trump family.
Interesting name, rings a bell.
Just call me Q, bro. Q. Hey, friend. Yeah. Just call me Q. You're from New York? I have a native from.
The QAnon people, they went underground. They went underground, but they didn't go anywhere, did they? They're still out there. They are absolutely still out there. Then there must be going into a frenzy. I just don't even know where to find that content anymore because all the social media websites banned all the QAnon shit after January 6th. So I know that there's still these weird Trump conspiracy people around. I just don't really know how to find their content anymore. Where's that Donald subreddit? The Donald.win is not on anymore. I don't even know where to find these people. This might have to be for tomorrow. I might have to wait till tomorrow to find like all these weirdos here. I just wanted to see this one more time. This is great. I really enjoyed this one.
Obviously, including somebody who was just brought on within the last 24 hours, somebody who knows this district, Manhattan, well, somebody who understands what it's like to the charges and what it's like to defend a high-profile defendant of Paul Manafort.
Yeah, obviously.
I like that. It's good.
That
intent to defraud must show more than just an intent to deceive. It must also show that there was an intent to deny an individual or individuals of properties or financial assets, and they think that will be a very stiff climb in this case. Trustee, as I mentioned, is also part of the Mar-a-Lago classified documents case. And he pointed to the fact that other attorneys in that case have been present before the grand jury for the special counsel, and most notably Tim Parlatore. Parlatore told me personally that when he went to the grand jury in December, that he felt his testimony to the grand jury was unexpected and unhelpful, his words, to the special counsel, because he argued that his actions and the actions of the former president did not show a willfulness to retain the records, rather what he described as a willingness to provide back the records once they had been identified. So you can see from the scope of the reporting that it's very broad disagreement as to the strength of the special counsel investigation. Now the Trump people say they don't think it's building to
Just looking at the QAnon Anonymous feed to see if I can find anything.
heard from Bob and others, they have a very different perspective on that investigation.
Catherine, thank you. Want to bring in
The piggies are tired. They're all in their fourth overtime now.
who are with us.
They're all in their fourth overtime.
34 counts, these felonies.
Patriots.win now. Okay, here we go.
Business records in the first degree.
Let's take a look at that before we have to go. I think that's a good way to close out the day. Thank you very much, Matt. I appreciate that. I didn't know where to find this bullshit anymore. The daughter of the Manhattan judge presiding over the Trump criminal case is a Democratic political strategist who worked in the congressional campaign of Adam Schiff. Well, yeah. Look, they've already got the sidebar image on there. They've already got the sidebar image. We're going to be seeing that a lot. This says a lot about society. Yes, hi, I'm back, but can't talk now. I'm here to do lion shit to the jackals and the hyenas. Oh my. Oh my. Cat turd with the kill shot. Just posting that lady's picture. Nice guy. Really nice guy.
Both set up in New York City, waiting for President Trump to leave.
Oh, this
the
Rumble
courthouse.
stream probably
He's
would have been
been
the good thing to watch.
inside for over an hour now.
You probably should have been looking at this the whole
For an hour
time.
and 45, he's been in the courthouse.
This is the Rumble,
but
the Rumble
only
stream.
in the actual courtroom for maybe just over an hour.
Yeah, just over an hour. So I would imagine things should be wrapping up now. That absolutely any minute we could expect, any second now we could be expecting him to walk outside and depart and head back to I think the airport. I believe he's going straight back to his plane to head back to West Palm Beach,
Now,
Florida.
Liz,
Imagine
let me
look like
ask you
a
this
normal
question.
American. Yeah, it couldn't be
With
cat
this
turd.
being the first time a president
These guys know where the
has
adrenochrome
been
is hiding,
arraigned,
for sure.
Do you think that others will follow? That, let's say we win the White House, we win the Senate, and we now control the Justice Department. Do you think the Republicans are also going to arraign some of the criminals on the left?
I don't think so.
Not saying that Donald Trump is a criminal.
I
at
mean,
all.
I think that if anyone should be the first thing,
Gotta make sure to
we
have
need
that
look
caveat
into
in there.
is Hunter Biden and the Biden crime family. So apart from that, I mean, I think that if Republicans were
Drumpf
to
Bull. There we go.
focus
Nice.
on anything, anybody getting arrested, it needs to solely and primarily be that something. where we
Referring to
have
libs as the
tangible
left. Well, that's what I mean. There's
evidence,
like
that
Marjorie Taylor Greene. She's calling Eric
horrible crimes have
Adams
been committed. So
this,
I
like,
don't think
communist
we're gonna stoop to their level. I
subversive.
think we've got our work cut out for us. Right now, we're kind of on the defense here, and it doesn't make sense.
Let's say we do the mega happy ending for Wayne's World. What does that look
But there's
like?
a lot of questions. People are wanting to know where's the GOP
That's the
today?
second Wayne's World
Where
reference from
are
this
all the
stream
other
today.
Republicans. I know for a fact we have... Sorry, we've got some messages coming in. I know for a fact that Marjorie Taylor Greene was there. Anthony Sabatini was there.
This lady sounds kind of pilled out or
We
something.
saw George Santos earlier, I think, while
we
I was
did.
getting ready. So we saw all of them come out and show their support for President Trump. There's a number of people online who have been voicing their support for President Trump as well.
Now, there's one interesting thing that has been brought up in some of the talking heads on the left and the right is the possibility that Donald J. Trump might be gag ordered.
Yeah.
Now, a gag order can vary depending on the situation, but in general, a gag order.
These people
would
are
be
very
a
low
court
energy.
Ordering someone not to talk about, make public comments on.
This lady sounds like she does
cases itself.
ASMR Twitch streams as a
Now,
day job.
I'm not a lawyer.
She does like
I'm not a
ASMR
justice
streams about
expert,
pedophilic, satanic
or anything
Democrats
like that. And you're seeing a cool shot right now of a helicopter on the left-hand side of your
wearing
screen.
children's
Big
faces.
thumbs up to our
And then Hillary
operators for the great
cuts
work they're
off
doing
the
right
child's
now.
face.
But do you think that he would put a gag
And then she
order
puts
on
the
him?
child's face
And
on her
if
own
so,
face.
will he obey it?
I
It's
asked
part of
Grace
a
that same
ritual that
question
these
earlier.
Democrats
I think
take part in.
absolutely, if they can, they will. Now, will he obey it? Grace said this, and I liked her response. She said, nobody can silence President
Hey, I
Trump.
got a freaking
They
gag
tried
order
before,
for him right
and look what
here.
He did. He created Truth
Oh.
Social. He created his entire own
There we go.
social media platform so that he could have a voice and reach his constituents, the American people. So I agree with her. I mean, I think that there's... I mean, it'd be terrible not to be able to defend yourself during an election. We're going to have to see about that. But
we do have some breaking news right now. We're getting reports that President Trump has actually left the courtroom and is headed back into the processing room, which he came from originally, which means that the arraignment could be at a conclusion.
Can we get a look at
and
that?
We are now waiting for him to actually exit the building and head out in his motorcade. So you're seeing live images right now outside the courthouse, helicopters in the air, watching the scene, news helicopters, police helicopters, and on the
Trump has
right-hand
left
side
the
of your
building.
screen, you're also seeing images of police officers kind of guarding the area that he is expected to come out of. So any moment now, we are expecting to see him exit the courthouse. We are getting a ton of information right now that is actually concluded. Information from reporters from the inside, pictures, all kinds of things are starting to kind of come out now that it has completed. There's
Let's go back to the real deal. I'm sorry. These people are... This is amateur hour bullshit.
No, I do not expect him to go
word
to
you use,
prison.
discretionary. Who has the discretion?
The judge, 100%. It is in any case, both sides will argue. The judge decides.
And we now see Donald Trump in the motorcade leaving the Manhattan courthouse after pleading not
You have to
guilty
pay to watch Steve
34
Bannon's
felony
War Room.
counts
Fuck
of
that.
falsifying business records. We have new details coming in right now about what happened inside the courtroom. Let's bring in Scott McFarland. Scott?
New details.
Nora, Donald Trump spent exactly 1 hour inside that courtroom before departing. He arrived at 2:25 p.m. Eastern Time, departing here 3:25 p.m. Eastern Time. I can tell you from the part of this proceeding we saw, the overwhelming majority of this proceeding was not the reading of the charges. It was not the arraignment. There was some litigation about opening these proceedings up to media, and there were some number of arguments or discussions after the reading of the charges.
I agree that we are in need of 10 more subs today. I do have to go in a few minutes. Thank you, Doc, for reminding chat and for reminding me. It's been a wonderful day of coverage. I haven't really done any pauses to actually try and encourage people to subscribe to the stream. Usually I like to take 5-10 minutes out of the stream to kind of remind that folks to please, if you can, support the channel, support the content that I do here on Twitch. The only way that I'm allowed to do that, I'm able to continue doing this show, is through the endless, boundless generosity of some members of this community. So please subscribe to the show. Two generous chatters could get TRRS to the
You've
daily
just become
sub
an
goal.
elite member of the Friendship Triangle.
And to his
Gen X Bushy, thank you so much for the 5 gifted subs. Thank you. Very much appreciate that. Gen X Bushy, hell yeah. One more generous chatter could get to the sub goal, folks. One generous chatter could do it. Can you imagine how exciting that would be? Of all the exciting historical things we've witnessed today, wouldn't that in many ways be the most exciting and most historic? In many ways, I think so.
We shouldn't forget that there has been reporting, or there's been the
I think so. We've laughed, we've cried, we memed, we've joked.
So in other words, it may be the same check.
I did the Layla thing, that was fun.
Be at least politically quite significant if some of those dates.
And only one generous chatter, or just 5 chatters that want to subscribe.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Moist Outlets, thank you very much for the gifted sub. Is this a real image of Trump?
You can count on me. You're going to have good old
Is this image
Rob
real?
to talk you through all this.
I don't know. I'm going to have to call in the disinformation experts on this one. I can't tell if this is real or not. Cutman, thank you for the gifted sub. Thank you, Cutman. We got 3 more. We're so close, folks. So close to the sub goal. Can 3 more generous chatters come through? I believe that you can. I believe that there's 3 generous chatters out there that could.
You can count on me.
Get
You're gonna
to
have good old Rob
the
to
sub
talk you through
goal.
all this.
Thank you, Fart Party 69, valued community member. Fart Party
You
69.
can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
And thank you, Bigger Wig, as well. It even pronounces it correctly. Thank you, Bigger Wig, as well, for the 28 months.
You can
tier
count on
1.
me. You're going to have good old Rob.
And thank you,
to,
Brian,
talk
for the
you
gifted
through all
subs.
this.
Look at that. Look at that. Thank you, Brian. You put us over the top.
Asking if they're surprised Trump didn't speak to reporters outside.
I really appreciate that, chat. Thank you. We did it.
Is a Florida resident now.
We did it.
Every sense.
Thank you to everyone who tuned in today and who supports the stream.
What New York has become for him, the experience of him being in New York, a fortified Trump Tower. You can't go to the 21 Club down the street anymore and have a.
I really, really appreciate. I literally could not do this show without you. I really could not.
Bracing reminder of that today in Lower Manhattan.
In fact, even when it's hot in the summer in Florida, Trump does not come back. He goes out to Bedford, New Jersey.
Bedminster, New Jersey.
Bedminster, New Jersey.
Drawn to heat and conflict.
And spends his summers out there.
He's going back to his plane, the Boeing 757 now, often parked at LaGuardia Airport.
I will try and stop by the stream later, Brian. I wanted to see the glimpse getting out of the building, but I think we got to get going.
For Trump, he's been using it at recent rallies. He'll be flying back to Florida in that aircraft before it goes.
I still really like this beat.
As they drive up Manhattan and through the city, if he's reminiscing a little bit, a lot of the buildings that he is passing used to have his name on, and now those names have been taken down. So the city has changed a lot since he became president in terms of how it relates to Donald Trump.
We've noted that Trump first faced criminal.
Should I raid Hassan? Do you think? I think I've tried once before. Do you think I'll even get an acknowledgement? Do you think I'll even get an acknowledgement if we raid Hassan? Probably not. Can't believe we got to watch Trump's live execution on your stream. This guy needs our help. This unknown streamer needs our help. I like to help out some of these up-and-coming streamers, you know? I feel like, you know, you gotta, when you become fortunate enough to be able to build a platform, you gotta pass that along. You gotta pay it forward.
There's the 2024 candidates, but anybody engaged in public life, because this is an attack on the judicial system. You attack it for the purposes of undermining whatever finally happens.
You get the knives, the Rob Raid knives out, please.
And there's a cost to doing so because you're basically saying this is an illegitimate proceeding. That's a very dangerous.
And please, after the fake raid, Doc is going live. Please follow and subscribe to Doc Hollywood MD's channel. He's going to be going live as well, and I really highly recommend that people head on over there.
Because delay always benefits every criminal defendant.
You think back to Michael Cohen is at the center of this case, but when I was watching those images come in of Donald Trump sitting there in the courtroom, I was thinking not of Michael Cohen, but of Roy Cohn, Trump's longtime advisor.
And we got also friend of the stream, Brian, aka Lennon Smesh, streaming later. Make sure to give him a follow as well. Thanks again for tuning in, folks. I'll be back tomorrow, as usual. Take care. I love you. Thank you.